This story is based on the notion that behind every powerful person lies a special crow that makes the person what they are. One day, one such crow comes to visit the building of a powerful sect called the Cleansing Ancient Sect. Watching the crow, a person who appears to be the leader of the sect welcomes it, stating that no one would have expected a little child like him to become the leader of a sect one day. In response, the crow silently sends a stick in his direction that flies to the person and stops right in front of him. Grabbing the stick, the person becomes surprised, asking why he is still keeping it. He recalls that the crow brought him along with a few other creatures in order to cultivate them and used to beat them up with this stick until they reached the peak of cultivation. In response, the crow simply turns around, giving a rude expression. After staying silent for some time, the person calls out to the crow once again, remarking that he is unaware of how long the crow has been alive and how long he will live. Therefore, the person requests that he protect his sect if he dies any day, stating that it has been his dream to establish a sect and that he does not wish to conquer lands. However, while he keeps on presenting his request, the crow simply turns around and flies away. Watching that, the person starts to call out to the crow, asking if he is even listening and if he has accepted the request, but the crow disappears from his sight. Many years later, one of the disciples of the sect hastily climbs up the stairs of the sect building, intending to deliver bad news to his elder. Reaching upstairs, he calls out to the elder, revealing that a boy barged into the mountain door and said that he wants to become a prime disciple of their sect. Hearing that the elder silently gazes at him when the second elder sitting beside him simply instructs him to beat the kid and send him away. However, the disciple reveals that the boy was holding a token of the cleansing incense ancient sect in his hands. Hearing that, the elder quickly instructs him to bring the child in when the child enters, stating that there is no need for an invitation and introducing himself as the prime disciple of the sect. Looking at the child, one of the elders asks how he came there, remarking that it is very difficult for a person to become a prime disciple of their sect, and inquires about his qualifications. In response, the boy introduces himself as Li Chi Yi and shows them the token, stating that every person who has it is treated as a VIP and is allowed to have one request that the sect fulfills. Hearing that, the elder asks him to prove that the token he is holding is real. In response, Li Chi Yi states that this was given to him by their beloved old devil and throws the token in their direction, telling them to confirm it from Kwai Hong Hall if they want. As the Supreme Elder catches the token, all the other elders sitting around him curiously look at it while making different remarks about the old devil. After closely looking at the token for some time, the Supreme Elder reveals it to be real, causing the second elder to become surprised. The person reminds him that there are only a few days left in the marriage between them and the Nine Saint Demon Gate. He states that it is only after they get the resources from the Nine Saint Demon Gate that they can prosper once again. Despite being unaware of Li Chi Yi's background, the person states that they currently have no candidates for the position of prime disciple and should consider him as an option. In response, the elder takes a sigh, stating that they will come to know about it after they test his potential. Therefore, he uses his powers to summon a mirror of truth and send it in the direction of Li Chi Ye. Observing the child through this mirror, they realize that he does not even have the potential to be cultivated and become enraged at his audacity to demand to become the prime disciple. Remarking that he does not have the potential to become a prime disciple, the elder offers him to join the sect as an outer disciple if he wants. The disciple standing beside him also advises him to do it, stating that he might be able to achieve something big even with these qualities, while Li Chi Yi becomes frustrated. Walking towards the Supreme Elder, Li Chi Yi begins to repeat all the ancestral teachings of their sect, making him surprised and asking how he knows it all. In response, Li Chi Yi states that he got a glimpse of them from the stone plates on the way to the building. However, he shares his surprise at the elder still remembering the teachings, while the elder thinks that he must be a genius if he has memorized all the teachings through a single glimpse. However, despite that, the Supreme Elder remarks that if he allows a child like him to become a prime disciple of the sect, it would lead to the demise of the sect. In response, the second elder argues that forgetting the ancestral teachings of the sect will bring its demise, causing the Supreme Elder to become frustrated. Hearing their argument, Li Chi Yi remarks that the sect is very interesting because the elders are not united and have even forgotten the core teachings of their ancestors. Enraged by his audacity, the Supreme Elder wants to strike him with his powers and kill him right away, and he remarks that he would have done it 1,000 times if it weren't for the order. Just then, someone who has entered the building starts to laugh, remarking that the sect seems to be quite lively, causing them all to turn around with surprise. As they all turn around, the person introduces himself as Yuhi, the chief guardian of the Nine Saint Demon Gate, stating that he has come to greet the cleansing incense demon sect. Confused, the elder inquires about his purpose of arrival, and Yuhi reveals it to be something related to the princess of the Nice Saint Demon Gate. Yuhi states that the princess has impeccable talent, and if the talent of the prime disciple of their sect is not good, the marriage will not be acknowledged. Therefore, he states the intention of the Demon King to make the prime disciple of their sect undergo a test to save their name and prove their worth. This makes the elder and his fellows realize that the Nine Saint Demon Gate is simply trying to withdraw from the agreement. Hearing that, Li Chi-yi starts to laugh, remarking that the Nine Saint Demon Gate, who depended on the ancient incense demon sect in the past, now has the audacity to test their disciples. In response, the child accompanying Yuhi becomes enraged, threatening to punish Li Chi-yi for humiliating the name of his sect. However, instead of getting scared by the threats, Li Chi-yi starts to humiliate them further, calling their leader a chicken head. Enraged by his behavior, Yuhi sends sharp icicles in his direction, remarking that he seems to have a death wish. As soon as the icicles strike him, a huge blast erupts. However, as the smoke clears, Li Chi-yi emerges unscathed from within, having been shielded by the sect elders with their powers. Enraged at them for protecting a person who humiliated their sect, Yuhi asks if they are trying to go against them, but the Supreme Elder argues that they can't allow him to become a murderer. Meanwhile, Yuhi's disciple becomes determined to make Li Chi-yi pay for his remark and calls out to Yuhi, asking for permission to deal with him, which he grants. Turning to Li Chi-yi, Yuhi's disciple challenges him to a duel, causing him to remark that he will surely help him if he wants to die. Impressed by the courage of Li Chi-yi, the Supreme Elder orders them to prepare the stage for them and turns to Li Chi-yi, stating that they will not be able to save him this time. However, Li Chi-yi replies that this is exactly what he wanted, causing them to remark on him as crazy for accepting such a challenge without even having a weapon. Taking him to a weapon room, the disciple who brought him in states that he can fight the duel in Li Chi-yi's place if he wants, but Li Chi-yi refuses. Looking at the weapons in the room, Li Chi-yi remarks that the sect is doomed, stating that there isn't even a single useful weapon here, making the disciple enraged. The person states that he can simply go empty-handed on the stage and die if he deems their treasures to be useless, while Li Chi-yi keeps rummaging through the weapon, messing up the room. After a while, Li Chi-yi suddenly stops having found something useful, which makes the sect member curious about what treasure it might be. However, to his surprise, it is just a burnt-up stick, which Li Chi-yi remarks is very useful. After some time, on a battlefield, Li Chi-yi and Du Ming, the subordinates of Yuhi, come face to face against each other and are explained all the rules of the game by the referee. With a confident smile on his face, Yuhi instructs Du Ming to torture his opponent and show him the consequences of humiliating their sect. Meanwhile, the Supreme Elder of the Cleansing Incense sect thinks that it would be a good idea to use the Nine Saint Demon sect to eliminate Li Chi-yi while also getting their precious token back. Just as the beginning of the duel is announced, Du Ming leaps up in the air and reaches near Li Chi-yi, inflicting a small wound on his neck with his swift movements. This causes the members of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect to make different remarks. Meanwhile, Du Ming keeps inflicting more and more wounds on Li Chi-yi's body, causing his sect members to remark that it looks more like one-sided torture than a duel. Stating that it isn't over, Du Ming then starts to target the previously created wounds again, causing Li Chi-yi to experience intense agony. Seeing that, the referee remarks Du Ming to be incredible. Maintaining a distance from him, Du Ming looks at Li Chi-yi, who is badly panting and unable to move, remarking that he should now understand the difference in strength between them. Remarking himself to be very merciful, Du Ming states that he is going to end the battle with a final strike to avoid Li Chi-yi experiencing further pain. With that, he rushes forward and pierces his sword into Li Chi-yi's heart, stating that he can relax now. While Li Chi-yi crashes to the ground, Du Ming tells him to be thankful to him for this pleasant experience in the afterworld. However, just then, Li Qiyi opens his eyes and smiles, remarking that it was indeed painful, which leaves Du Ming confused. Looking at his expressions, Du Ming wonders if he missed the target and realizes that Li Qiyi has dodged the attack by making the sword get stuck under his arm instead of piercing his heart. With the shadow of the gigantic crow behind him, Li Qiyi states that the wounds were really painful, causing Du Ming to become shocked, realizing that something is strange about him. Thinking that, he quickly backs away and maintains a distance, causing Li Qiyi to ask if he is not confident of winning the battle anymore, causing Du Ming to become enraged. Charging at him once again, Du Ming then starts to launch countless attacks, all of which Li Qiyi effortlessly dodges. This causes Du Ming to become utterly astonished, while Yuhi stares at him in shock, realizing how talented he actually is. Meanwhile, all the members of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect become surprised, realizing that Li Qiyi was actually acting. The Supreme Elder, who is watching the battle closely, realizes that Li Qiyi was taking a few hits earlier in order to silently memorize the attack patterns of his opponent. This is what enabled him to make the attacks when Du Ming attempted to launch a final strike. To memorize the attacking patterns of someone by just observing them once is impressive for the Supreme Elder, but he still fears that Li Qiyi might lose, considering his inability to fight. Meanwhile, Du Ming gives a cruel laugh, charging his body with overwhelming energy, remarking that Li Qiyi is going to die a horrible death, stating that he is nothing more like an insect that does not even have the ability to cultivate. Du Ming remarks that he has gotten ahead of himself. Realizing that his opponent has finally started to get serious, Li Qiyi smiles and grabs his burnt stick tightly, stating that he should also get serious for the battle. Looking at the stick, one of the sect members turns to the other, asking if their armory still had this type of weapon, and the other one agrees. However, remembering that it was just a broken stick that was found in a pile of junk, the person feels embarrassed to be unable to even say that. Looking at the stick and his hand, Du Ming remarks that even if it is a divine weapon, an insect will remain an insect even after wielding it. Watching the duel, Yuhi smiles, curious to know how Li Qiyi will block the attack that Du Ming is about to launch. Just then, Du Ming disappears from the battleground, causing Huai Ren, one of the sect members, to become shocked. Reappearing right above Li Qiyi, Du Ming then rushes towards him, intending to launch a deadly attack. As Du Ming reaches near Li Qiyi, pointing his sword towards him, Li Qiyi turns around and dodges the attack, swinging his stick skillfully, which leaves Yuhi shocked. As a result of swinging the stick, Du Ming gets severely injured and crashes to the ground, leaving all his onlookers in astonishment. Looking at Du Ming lying on the ground, the referee declares Li Qiyi to be the winner of the quest. Shocked to see such an unexpected turn of events, Yuhi runs towards Du Ming and holds him up, realizing that all his cultivation has been completely destroyed. Enraged at that, he turns to Li Qiyi, asking how he dared to do such a thing, in response to which Li Qiyi laughs, remarking that it was miserable. Realizing that he has destroyed the cultivation of a cultivator in a single blow, Huai Ren becomes shocked. Meanwhile, one of the elders of the sect starts to laugh, stating that it is because of Du Ming, who made such a flawed move that he had to get defeated. Meanwhile, the Supreme Elder stands silently, thinking that Li Qiyi remembered all the moves of the opponent again and was able to dodge the attack even after Du Ming changed his tactics. This makes him wonder if he is really a normal child with no cultivation and think about how many more secrets he must be hiding from them. Meanwhile, Li Qiyi calls out to Yuhi, stating that Du Ming was determined to kill him, but he has still left him alive, and remarks that their demon sect has lost their dignity to a cultivator. Asking if he is really that qualified to teach him, Yuhi angrily gets up, determined to end his life, while Li Qiyi becomes excited for the battle. However, before Yuhi can launch an attack, all the elders of the sect intervene, stopping him from attacking and saving Li Qiyi. Stating that life and death in the battle are determined by nature, the elder tells him that if he insists on fighting again, he should not blame their sect for not showing mercy. Considering it lucky for all three elders to have shown up together, Yuhi turns to Li Qiyi, asking about his origins. In response to Yuhi's question, Li Qiyi introduces himself as the primary disciple of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. Hearing that, the Supreme Elder turns to him, forbidding him from saying such nonsense things. Yuhi, on the other hand, smiles after discovering that and turns to the elder, stating that because they have not decided on their primary disciple till now, they should conduct a test within 3 days. In case they do not show up, Yui threatens to break the engagement from their end and challenges Li Chi-yi to come to the 9 Saint Demon Gate if he has the guts. Hearing that, Li Chi-yi remembers a conversation between a demon called Old Chickenhead and the founder of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. While discussing the name of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, Old Chickenhead stated that he named the sect that way because he could not let go of his identity as a demon. Stating that his purpose was to show the world that even a demon could be upright, Old Chickenhead turned to the crow, asking if he would support him, but the crow stood silent in response. Hearing his motives, the founder of the Cleansing Incense sect argued that he reached this far by cultivating his body and asked how he could establish a sect without any school of thought. In response, the Old Chickenhead stated that he had already thought about it and revealed the countless books on minor martial techniques that he possessed. Looking at all those books, Ming Ren, the other person, became astonished, asking why he brought all those books. Old Chickenhead replied that all those were meant to improve the martial arts technique of his sect members, asking if they would help him in that. While promising to cooperate and help him learn all these techniques, Ming Ren noticed the crow gazing at something and found the book on his feet with the title True Yang Technique. Looking at it, Ming Ren remarked that the True Yang Technique was surely the best foundation method, while Chickenhead requested them to look after him even after he established the sect. Remembering their goals and motives, Li Chi-yi reflects upon the situation he has currently witnessed and wonders what the ancestors might be feeling about it. He remarks that both the Cleansing Incense ancient sect and the 9 Saint Demon Gate sect have derailed from their original paths. However, he tells these ancestors not to worry, promising that he will bring the sect to the top once again. Just then, the elder of the sect calls out to him, reminding him that the statue he is leaning on is the statue of the founder of the sect and stating that he is not allowed to sit there. While Li Chi-yi gets up, the elder informs him that they have made a decision after the discussion and tells him to follow him to the main hall to discuss the prime disciple position. Hearing that, Li Chi-yi smiles in excitement, thinking of it as a perfect opportunity. In the hall, Li Chi-yi is informed by the elders that he has been selected as a prime disciple of the sect and will have to be more cautious about his behavior and manners from then on. Complying with all their instructions, Li Chi-yi looks at his new attire, wondering why he is feeling uncomfortable in it and thinking that it would take time for him to get used to it. Remarking on his ignorant look as if nothing is going on, one of the elders states that he might not be aware of what he is going to face. Stating that he has abolished the cultivation of Yuhi's disciple, they inform him that the test is definitely going to be an opportunity for him to seek revenge. Stating that there are countless experts in the 9 Saint Demon Gate, the elder states that this trip is going to be very deadly for Li Chi-yi. However, without a single trace of fear or anxiety on his face, Li Chi-yi remarks that even those people will not be very powerful, as one of them just got kneecaped by them. While the Supreme Elder becomes frustrated at this attitude of his, the second elder explains to him that they just want him to tell them what weapon or scripture he wants for the test. After a little contemplation, Li Chi-yi states that the bird stick is very suitable for him, and he will choose it as his main weapon. Regarding the martial arts techniques, he states that he has heard about the Cleansing Incense ancient sect having a book known as Invisible Blades, which is something he wants. Hearing that the elder remarks that Invisible Blades is just a non-trendy martial technique for newcomers, and his stick also seems useless, in response, Li Chi-yi states that weapons for martial techniques are just external objects, and what is important is his own convenience in using them, and he will surely choose what he says. Hearing that, the Supreme Elder tells him to leave if that is all he has to ask and instructs Huai Ren to provide him with the things he requires. With that, both Huai Ren and Li Chi-yi take their leave. As he leaves, one of the elders turns to the Supreme Elder, asking why he did not object to the nonsense choices Li Chi-yi made. In response, the Supreme Elder explains that he has already exceeded their expectation by turning the bad odds into a favorable outcome, which is why he allowed him to be as wild as he could. Watching him leave, the elder states that they never know, and Li Chi-yi might be able to create a miracle one day. Meanwhile, Huai Ren escorts Li Chi-yi to the room of the prime disciple now given to him and remarks that it is very spacious. While Li Chi-yi is busy reading the Book of Techniques, Huai Ren remarks that he is very incredible, congratulating him on becoming the prime disciple of the sect. In response, Li Chi-yi asks if he has ever practiced the invisible swords before, and Huai Ren agrees, revealing that he did practice it for a little while in the past. Remarking it to be perfect, Li Chi-yi quickly gets up, telling him to practice it with him, causing him to become surprised and ask if he wants to do it at the moment. A few moments later, they leave the room and go outside, where Li Chi-yi instructs Huai Ren to consider his hands to be the swords and go as hard as he likes. While doing that, he remarks that having a simple sparring match is also not boring, causing him to become confused. Li Chi-yi explains that they will have 10 rounds in which they will only have to use the invisible sword technique, and if he wins, Huai Ren will be treated as his servant for a whole month. Wondering if he is trying to take advantage of the situation, Huai Ren agrees to the bet while stating that if he goes, Li Chi-yi will have to start talking respectfully to everyone. Agreeing to the deal, both of them start the battle. As the battle begins, Huai Ren keeps on defeating Li Chi-yi in all the rounds, realizing that he is just a newbie with invisible blades, an inferior martial technique. He thinks that such a technique cannot possibly be effective against a cultivator, and he keeps overpowering Li Chi-yi in the first 9 rounds. Thinking that there is no chance for Li Chi-yi to win against him, Huai Ren gets ready for the final round. Stating that this is going to be the final attack, Huai Ren leaps up, telling Li Chi-yi to start respecting others, while Li Chi-yi smiles, thanking him for his guidance. With that, he leaves his place and goes near Huai Ren at a great speed, putting his hand on his neck and telling him to stop. After defeating him, Li Chi-yi thanks him for making him understand the secrets behind the invisible dual blades, stating that he has completely comprehended them. While Huai Ren gazes at him in shock, unable to realize what has happened, Li Chi-yi reminds him of their bet, stating that he will have to act as his servant for 1 month. With that, Li Chi-yi turns around to go away and think about what he will make Huai Ren do as his servant. As he leaves, Huai Ren ponders that the decline of the cleansing incense ancient sect was an irrevocable tide, yet Li Chi-yi's arrival has somehow given them a new glimmer of hope. Thinking that, he loudly calls out to Li Chi-yi, who turns around in confusion, finding Huai Ren, encouraging him to clear the trial to revive their sect, making him remember Ming Ren. Hearing these encouraging words, Li Chi-yi smiles, stating that he can surely do it. The next morning, in the 9 Saint Demon Gate, Du Ming is found dead, having slit his own throat. Watching that, the elder turns to Yuhi, stating that they were only supposed to relay a message and asking how this happened. In response, Yuhi, who is deeply saddened by the death of his subordinate, states that he did it because his cultivation was destroyed by Li Chi-yi. Turning to Du Ming's elder brother, who is grief-stricken, the elder states that a cultivator's cultivation is their life and soul, and Du Ming has done the right thing by ending his suffering. Feeling overwhelmed with emotions and anger, Kuang Yuan, his elder brother, agrees. Meanwhile, the elder continues to state that one can only stabilize their cultivation by having a firm heart, and he tells Kuang to go and spend some time alone in order to relax. While leaving the building, Kuang remembers the name of Li Chi-yi, thinking of him as his brother's murderer, and vows to kill him. As Li Chi-yi gets ready to leave for the demon sect, the Supreme Elder comes to him, stating that it is a very important trip for their sect and instructing him to be careful of his words and actions. In response, Li Chi-yi confidently assures them that everything is going to be fine, while they still feel nervous from the inside that a person like him is going to represent their sect. Telling the Elder Mo and Huai Ren to accompany Li Chi-yi on his journey, the Supreme Elder instructs them to take good care of him. With that, he applies his powers to the scroll they are standing on in order to teleport them to their destination. While they are teleporting, Huai Ren turns to Li Chi-yi, revealing that the 9 Saint Demon Gate has become very powerful in the last few years, and that their welcoming ceremony is going to be grand. In response, Li Chi-yi simply smiles, stating that he will see how big it is going to be. A few moments later, they are successfully teleported to the location where Mo and Huai Ren become shocked to realize that not even a single person has come to receive them. Looking at his surroundings, Li Chi-yi starts to mock Huai Ren, asking if this is the grand welcome ceremony he was talking about. Just then, Su Hui, the elder of the demon sect, walks to them, apologizing for being late and unable to welcome them. Annoyed by such a little protocol, Elder Mo turns to Su Hui, asking why he is the only one there. Telling him not to be angry, Su Hui reveals that their sect master is currently in seclusion, and the other elders also have important tasks at hand. While Mo feels enraged at these lame excuses, Li Chi-yi tells him not to overreact, stating that they will make them pay 100-fold for it during the trial. Noticing him, Su Hui remarks that he seems to be the prime disciple of their sect, and he agrees. In response, Su Hui states that because Li Chi-yi has reduced one of the outer disciples of their sect, the Nine Saint Demon Gate is looking forward to his performance in the trial. With that, he turns around, stating that he will guide them to the guest quarters so that they can rest and wait for the day of the trial to come. In response, Li Chi-yi states that they are not in a rush for that, and because the Nine Saint Demon Gate has prospered so much, he would instead want to take a look around. With that, he starts to run in a different direction, followed by Huai Ren, while Su Hui becomes frustrated, remarking that he is wishing for his death by doing that. A few moments later, Li Chi-yi reaches the battle arena of the sect, finding it to be surrounded by gigantic statues, which makes him astonished. Looking at the different kinds of statues surrounding the arena, Li Chi-yi remarks that it is a very decent battleground, and Elder Mo agrees, remarking that it is astonishing. Having got a crazy idea, Li Chi-yi calls out to Huai Ren and points to the demonic statue in front of him, stating that he wants him to help him get to the top of it. Shocked to hear it, Huai Ren explains that this statue is a sacred monument for the people of the sect, and climbing it up would mean courting death. In response, Li Chi-yi reminds him of their deal, stating that he can make him do whatever he wants for a whole month, causing Huai Ren to remark that he would die at this rate. Kneeling down, Huai Ren tells him to simply kill him instead of making him do such things. Watching that, Elder Mo calls out to Li Chi-yi, instructing him to give a break to Huai Ren for the day. However, Li Chi-yi forbids him from stopping him, stating that he must climb the statue. Replying that he is not asking him to stop, Elder Mo lifts him up, stating that taking care of the prime disciple of their sect is his responsibility, and throws him towards the statue. By the impact of the truth, Li Chi-yi flies all the way up to the statue and lands on its head, remarking that Mo has really good control over his strength. Watching him standing above the statue, Huai Ren becomes overly anxious, but Mo states that the demon sect didn't even welcome them, so they should not treat them with courtesy either. Just then, one of the sect members notices Li Chi-yi standing at the top of the statue and starts to call out to other people, informing them about that. Realizing that they have been caught, Huai Ren becomes anxious, thinking that it is the end for them. Gathering under the statue, the members of the Nine Saint Demon Gate start to threaten Li Chi-yi with the consequences of vandalizing their sacred statue, telling him to get down. However, instead of feeling anxious, Li Chi-yi enjoys their remarks when he suddenly hears someone's voice and turns around, finding Kwang charging at him from behind. Watching him floating in the air, Li Chi-yi becomes astonished while Kwang rushes toward him to launch an attack. However, before he can do that, Mo creates a protective shield in front of Li Chi-yi to block the attack. After blocking the attack, Mo makes Li Chi-yi fall down the statue with his powers and catches him, causing Kwang to jump down and land in front of him. Remarking that it was fun, Li Chi-yi turns to Kwang, asking if he wants to fight, while Huai Ren starts to cry out of frustration, wondering what he should do in such a situation. Calling Li Chi-yi the cause of the death of his little brother, Kwang states that his act of vandalizing their sacred statue has made it necessary for him to end his life. Confused, Li Chi-yi asks who he is, and he introduces himself, stating that the person Li Chi-yi crippled in the cleaning incense ancient sect was his younger brother. Hearing that, Li Chi-yi realizes whom he is talking about and starts to smile, causing all the other members of the Nine Saint Demon Gate to become frustrated. Angry at his expressions, Kwang states that not even his elder can protect him, yet if he kneels down and accepts his subservience, his death will be made less painful. As Li Chi-yi is about to reply, Su Hui intervenes and calls out to Kwang, stopping him from being impolite to their guests. Revealing that Li Chi-yi is the prime disciple of the cleansing incense ancient set, Su Hui states that it would not be right to provoke him. Also stating that Li Chi-yi does not seem to have any cultivation, Su Hui asks if Kwang is trying to bully him by challenging him to the fight. Hearing that he does not have any cultivation, the other members of the Nine Saint Demon Gate start to mock him, calling him a piece of garbage who is no match for their princess. Remarking that their elder knows how to talk, Li Qi then turns to Kwang, stating that he will accept his challenge and fight him in this very arena in a deadly battle. Kwang states that he does not care about Li Qi's cultivation, and since he is responsible for Du Ming's death, he must be killed. In response, Li Qi starts to mock the demon sect for merely talking big and not acting upon it. Enraged by his rudeness, all the members of the Nine Saint Demon Gate start to encourage Kwang to kill him mercilessly. Watching the situation get out of hand, Su Hui considers it to be going in their favor, thinking that Li Qi will not even be able to live up to the day of the trial in this way. On the other side, Mo becomes worried for Li Qi's well-being, stating that he will not even be able to protect him if a real battle goes on. However, Huai Ren thinks differently and states that if it is the type of duel where they have to exchange blows, Li Qi might win. Meanwhile, Kwang rushes forward, holding his sword, to launch an attack on Li Qi. However, as he reaches near Li Qi, he notices his stance, thinking that he does not seem to be an amateur and seems to have gone through very tough training. However, considering a huge opening on his left shoulder, Kwang goes forward and pierces his sword through Li Qi's shoulder. Watching that all the other members of the Nine Saint Demon Gate become happy and encourage Kwang to torture him further. On the other side, Elder Mo becomes increasingly worried and activates his powers, stating that if the opponents intend on killing Li Qi, he must interfere. However, Huai Ren, who seems to be looking at the other side of the situation, states that this is not what the elder should be worried about. Huai Ren remembers that when Li Qi defeated him in the training sessions for the Invisible Blades, he became confused and asked how Li Qi managed to do that. In response, Li Qi revealed that when the founder of the sect established it, he improvised and improved on many martial techniques. From among those divine martial techniques, the Invisible Blades were one, a revelation that left Huai Ren surprised. Li Qi further stated that their emperor made this technique an unpredictable and seemingly magical sword martial technique. He considered it a tragic fact that, despite being such a precious technique, no one wanted to pursue it. Remembering that, Huai Ren looks at Li Qi using the same technique on Kwang, launching powerful slashes at him, leading to his death. Watching that Su Hui, Yuhi, and all the other members of the demon sect are taken aback while Li Qi takes out the sword pierced into his shoulder and asks who is next to come. Bursting in anger, Su Hui charges his body with his overwhelming powers to punish Li Qi when Elder Mo intervenes, stating that when one enters a fighting arena, it is a life-or-death situation. Mo asks if they forgot such basic rules. In response, Yui states that they do accept whatever happened in the arena, but remarks that it was a cruel act, asking if Li Qi does not fear being confronted by other disciples after this. Meanwhile, all of the members of the sect who are angry at Li Qi start to challenge him for a fight, creating a lot of noise. Just then, all of them hear a loud voice coming from the sky telling them to keep quiet. Hearing the voice, all of them look up to the sky, realizing that it is their Supreme Elder, and kneel down, greeting the Elder. The Supreme Elder, who has been watching the battle, states that Kwang died in the arena because his cultivation was weak, telling all of them to stop stirring up trouble. Calling out to Li Qi, the Elder expresses their disgust for his domineering attitude, stating that they want him to quickly recover from his injury, undergo the trial, and leave their sect. In response, Li Qi rudely states that he does not want their instructions and tells them to quickly arrange the trial, stating that he is already getting bored there. Considering that he has decided not to give him time for rest, Yui tells him not to blame them for not showing mercy later. With that, he reveals his first trial to be related to the Chaotic Heart Forest. Yui explains that the Chaotic Heart Forest is a forest established by the ancestors of the Nine Saint Demon Gate and is used to strengthen and test the disciples' willpower. There are a total of 14 levels, and the difficulty of the trails increases with each step. The intruders in the forest are shown realistic illusions of different types, which feel so real that they cause the minds and bodies of the people to get badly damaged. Telling him that, Yui instructs Li Qi to quickly come out of the forest if he is unable to bear it, stating that he will lose his mind in the other case. stating that the cleansing incense ancient sect is considered a very powerful sect from history. Yui states that he does not want to see the prime disciple of such a great sect getting scared. In response, Li Qi tells him to stop speaking and start the trial right away, stating that he wants their princess to come out and fight against him, making all of them surprised. Stating that their sect does not want to get blamed for bullying the weak ones using the strong ones, Su Hui states that he will be going to accompany him in the forest. Remarking him to be just a lowly protector, Li Qi tells him to not deny it if he loses. Frustrated by his cruel remarks, Su Hui starts to walk inside the forest. Watching him go inside, one of the members of the sect states that by the time Su Hui was his elder brother, he was already able to reach the 5th level. He reveals that Su Hui, who is in his 30s, is already in this realm, highlighting how much potential he has. Watching him, they remark that he is already very close to the 6th level and will reach it soon. Just then, Su Hui steps inside the forest, immediately getting ensnared in its traps. Considering it to be a very terrifying forest, Su Hui wonders if this is his limit and becomes frustrated, not wanting to give up so easily. Activating his powers, he leaps up, destroying all the monsters, creatures, and illusions that come in his way. Watching him using force, Li Qi smiles, remembering that this forest is only meant to test a person's heart, and using force in such a place will lead him to encounter a greater backlash. Just then, a powerful wave of energy strikes his body, causing him to crash to the ground outside the forest, making all his sect members confused. Realizing that he underestimated the forest too much, Su Hui thinks it is the reason why he could not reach the 8th level. However, to his surprise, all of the members of his sect start to appreciate him for his effort, stating that he will become a supreme elder one day if he keeps working hard like that. Hearing that, Su Hui becomes glad, while Yuhi announces that next is going to be Li Qi's turn. Coming near Su Hui, Li Qi starts to laugh, mocking him, stating that it is certainly not bad for someone of his age and that he surely deserves some praise. Li Qi makes fun of him, stating that if he keeps this determination of his, he can surely reach beyond the level of the Broken Flower sect. This causes Su Hui to become enraged when Yuhi intervenes, calling out to Li Qi, stating that their representative has completed the trial and it is now time for him to do that. Keeping his rude demeanor, Li Qi states that he thought they were waiting for Su Hui to catch his breath when Huai Ren instructs him to watch his words. Thinking that he might be reluctant to start the trial, Yui asks if he is only good at talking. In response, Li Qi grins, stating that Su Hui is only lucky to have gotten the first chance to enter the forest, and if it were him, he would have reached up to the 14th level. Hearing that, Su Hui bursts in anger and gets on his feet, while Yuhi forbids him from letting Li Qi get the better of him. Asking how a barbarian like him dared to say such things, Su Hui challenges Li Qi to make a bet that if he fails to get past the 14th level, he will have to crawl underneath him. Accepting the bet, Li Qi states that Su Hui will have to do the same in case he loses, and he agrees, confident to make Li Qi experience it. With that, he enters the forest, saying that he will see about that. 1 hour later, while everyone still stands outside the forest, Li Qi keeps standing at the 1st level, causing all the members of the demon sect to start laughing at the cleansing incense sect. Thinking that the members of the demon sect are very impatient, Huai Ren chooses not to pay any heed to their remarks. However, looking at Li Qi standing still at the 1st level, he thinks that he does not seem to have any idea how to proceed forward. Meanwhile, Li Qi, who was standing with his eyes closed for about an hour, caused all the illusionary creatures to stare at him in confusion. Finally, after 1 hour, he opens his eyes and starts to proceed forward, causing the sect members to become attentive again. They think that it was because of his fear of losing that he decided to put his life on the line in the end. However, Yui does not seem to think like that and instead notices Li Qi's calm demeanor, wondering if he has a trick up his sleeve. As he walks forward, humming a tune, he reaches the 4th level and finds huge flames of fire burning there. Remarking them to be very unoriginal, he easily walks through them, reaching the 5th and then the 6th level. At the 7th level, he comes across the illusions of undead creatures, but instead of fighting them, he tells them to go away and starts to proceed forward without any fear. Watching that, Huai Ren becomes surprised, wondering how he did it, and becomes confident in his win encouraging him to complete the trial. Surprised at his relaxed attitude, the members of the demon sect start to consider it cheating and turn to Elder Mo and Huai Ren, calling them shameless cheaters. Hearing that, Yuhi turns around angrily, telling his subordinates to stop blaming them, stating that it is impossible to cheat in such a trial that tests one's heart. However, being surprised himself, he wonders if Li Qiye's heart is really that strong. Considering that the strength of illusions will exponentially increase after the 7th level, he thinks that there is nothing for him to worry about. He is confident that Li Qiye cannot reach the 14th level, no matter how hard he tries. Meanwhile, Li Qiye comes across a bright light beyond the 7th level, wondering if there is something interesting going on inside. Entering the area, he starts to view the illusions of authority, power, beauty, and wealth, all of which seem quite tempting to him. Sensing his feelings, a huge statue standing in front of him suddenly begins to move, stating that he has faltered and attempting to launch an attack on him. However, after it launches the strike, it becomes shocking to see Li Qiye standing aside, having successfully evaded the attack. Laughing at the remark of the statue, Li Qiye considers it a joke when the statue suddenly disappears, causing him to wonder if this was all. Looking at his empty surroundings, he remarks that the toys of Old Chicken Head are always boring like that. Sometime later, Li Qiye successfully reaches the 14th level, causing all the members of the demon sect to become shocked. As he comes out of the forest, Huai Ren greets him, remarking that he was not expecting him to actually reach that level when he was standing still in the beginning. In response, he states that he was only playing around and allowing Su Hui some time to relax and mentally prepare himself. Turning to Su Hui, Li Qiye then reminds him of their bet, causing him to become frustrated. Looking at his expressions, Li Qiye tells him that there is no need to panic, stating that he does not intend on haggling with someone like him. This causes Su Hui to feel embarrassed, seeing which Yuhi quickly changes the topic, congratulating Li Qiye on passing the trial and praising him for his capabilities. Yuhi reveals that the next trial is going to be a test of his battle prowess. Hearing that, Li Qiye reminds him that he has already defeated 2 of the most capable individuals, asking how many more they want him to cripple. Remarking him to be very presumptuous, Yuhi states that he himself is going to be his opponent, causing Li Qiye to smile in excitement in response. Yuhi remarks that by winning against a few disciples by using his weird tricks, Li Qiye has gotten so proud of himself and asks if he will actually dare to go against a person like him. In response, Li Qiye winks at him, stating that he is quite bold to take on such a challenge. Turning to Yuhi, Su Hui requests to be given one more chance, but Yuhi argues that if he loses again, it will bring a lot of shame to their sect. However, Su Hui assures him that he will not be losing this time, causing Yuhi to eventually allow him and announce the participants of the battle. Sometime later, the battle between the both of them officially begins, causing Su Hui to point his massive sword at Li Qiye, asking him to bring out his jewel blades. Stating that he will not be using his sword techniques against him, Li Qiye takes out his bird stick, stating that it would be enough for an opponent like him. Enraged by Li Qiye underestimating him, Su Hui bursts out, threatening to kill him, but Li Qiye ignores the threat, stating that he has heard it too many times already. Realizing that it is the same stick that crippled Du Ming, Yuhi thinks that it is necessary for him to find out what it exactly is. Therefore, he activates his vision skill, scanning the stick, and realizes that it is just an ordinary item with no signs of being tempered or no hidden mechanics. This makes him wonder if Li Qiye is trying to act mysterious while Su Hui charges at Li Qiye with his weapon. Reaching near him, Su Hui quickly changes his direction and reaches behind him, attempting to launch an attack. However, before the sword can strike him, it collides with the wooden stick Li Qiye is carrying on his shoulder and is pushed back. Watching that, Su Hui becomes shocked, wondering how it can be possible. The failure of his attack, accompanied by Li Qiye's mocking comments, ignites a deep rage within Su Hui. Considering that Li Qiye's act of blocking the attack has caused his hand to become numb, he becomes anxious that he might lose. However, Su Hui reassures himself, taking solace in the knowledge that, as a practitioner of the true fate realm, losing shouldn't come so easily to him. With renewed determination, he leaps into the air once more, ready to launch another attack. However, as he begins launching attacks, Li Qiye effortlessly blocks all of them with his stick, causing him to get pushed back. Watching that, all the onlookers become shocked while Suhui starts panting, remarking that it is impossible. Considering him to be a completely useless individual, Yui thinks that Suhui is trying to destroy the years-long reputation of their sect. Turning to him, Suhui tells him not to worry, stating that he has still not shown his true powers, in response to which Yui tells him to get up and continue the battle. Watching in confusion, Huai Ren turns to Elder Mo, stating that he does not understand why Suhui, despite being on the offensive, is pushed back. In response, Elder Mo shares his thoughts, stating that Li Qi might be a genius in that case, causing Huai Ren to become surprised, wondering how it can be possible with his weak body. Meanwhile, Suhui shares his shock at the precision of Li Qi's attacks, asking how he manages to strike his weakest points accurately. In response, Li Qi states that if he does not understand what is going on, it would be better for him to surrender. Li Qi remembers that in ancient times, there existed a terrifying serpent lurking in the dense forest, and whoever encountered that creature faced death regardless of what it was. However, the people were unaware of the fact that within the same forest, there also existed a monstrous tree that survived by eating those serpents. Yet, it was not because of its strength that it far surpassed the serpent. Instead, the trick in killing the serpent lied in its branches, which accurately struck the weakest point of the serpent. One day, a crow engaged in a deadly battle against the tree and got one of its branches, making full use of its abilities to auto-target the opponent's weak spot. He made this stick a teaching tool for training his disciples and named it the Serpent Punishing Stick. Even people like Ming Ren, who was the founder of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect, were powerless in front of that stick. Remembering that, Li Qi states that an insect like Suhui will not be a problem in front of it. Turning to Suhui, Li Qi states that his life will be spared if he surrenders at the moment. Enraged by his words, Suhui quickly changes his appearance and transforms into a half-serpent demonic beast, stating that he will now show his real powers to him. Stating that he has humiliated him more than enough, Suhui vows to make him pay for whatever he did. Realizing that he is transformed into a half-serpent demonic beast, Li Qi becomes astonished, while Huai Ren becomes hopeless of his survival in front of such a powerful creature. Considering that a half-demon can demonize themselves, gaining tremendous strength, Elder Mo thinks that Li Qi needs to hang in there. Meanwhile, Suhui reveals that his father was a golden-striped demonic serpent, and with him in his half-demon state, he can increase his power tremendously. In response, Li Qi starts to laugh, stating that of all the things, he turned out to be a serpent demon, and clenches his stick with his trembling hands. Laughing loudly in response, Suhui charges at him, telling him not to talk big when he is apparently trembling with fear. This causes the audience from both sides to become excited about the outcome. As soon as Suhui reaches near Li Qi, he starts to smile, calling him a fool, and pierces his stick through the serpent's neck, declaring that the one who was trembling was not him. He reveals that the reason for his trembling was the excitement of his stick having found its target, which he was not able to control. Pulling out his stick from Suhui's body, Li Qi turns to Yuhi, asking if it is still not time to declare the winner, causing Yuhi to become silent in response. While Huai Ren begins to celebrate the victory of their sect, Yuhi silently turns around, remembering his elder warning him of the consequences if they lose in the trial. In case he led the sect to become a laughingstock for everyone else, the elder threatened to make him live in pain and suffer like hell. Remembering that, he looks at Li Qi, wondering how Suhui lost to a powerless individual like him. Considering it unacceptable, he charges his hand with his powers, thinking that if Li Qi marries their princess, it would certainly make their sect a laughingstock for everyone. Summoning an icicle in his hand, Yuhi becomes determined to never let his sect face such disgrace and kill Li Qi. Meanwhile, Li Qi goes to Huai Ren, telling him to clean the blood-stained stick for him later. After eliminating Li Qi, Yu decides to kill Elder Mo and Huai Ren, and then use the name of his sect to justify whatever happened. Considering that it would at least give him a chance of survival, he throws the icicle in Li Qi's direction. Determined to follow his plan of killing Li Qi and the master-disciple pair, Yui throws the icicle in Li Qi's direction. However, before it can strike him, a rock suddenly appears in the middle, causing the icicle to collide with it and shatter into pieces. Watching that, Yui becomes shocked, wondering where the rock suddenly came from. Turning around in anger, Li Qiyi states that this is the second time that they have tried to sneak attack on him. Frustrated by someone blocking his attack, Yui turns around, asking who did it, when he suddenly notices the sacred statue above his head, realizing that it was the one who did that. Seeing that, Li Qiyi smiles, remarking that it seems like even their ancestors cannot take it anymore. Looking at the changed posture of the statue, the people become astonished, wondering if it moved by itself. Just then, all the members of the demon sect become frightened, realizing that the sacred statue is alive when it starts to move forward, crushing everything underneath its feet. Kneeling down, everyone pays their respects to the statue, considering it to be a blessing from their ancestors. Meanwhile, Yui trembles with fear, wondering why the sacred statue is protecting Li Qiyi, considering it to be something impossible. Just then, the statue comes near Li Qiyi and sits down. Declaring its intention to kill, the statue then raises its hand in the air, causing Yui to become utterly shocked. Bringing its hand down, the statue slams it onto the ground, creating massive destruction. Following that, the statue starts killing everyone in its way, causing the sect members to run here and there, realizing that it has gotten out of control. Emerging unscathed from the destruction, Li Qiyi starts to mock the sect members for getting scared. Seeing him, Mo and Huai Ren become surprised, asking if he is the one behind that. In response, Li Qiyi smiles, remembering that when he climbed up the statue for the first time, he murmured something in the secret language in its ears, which caused it to awaken. He states that knowing a secret language is very significant, especially for awakening such statues. Astonished to hear that, Huai Ren asks if there was even such a thing. Looking at the statue spreading destruction, Li Qiyi states that he was not originally planning to do it. However, when they crossed the line and forgot the rules, he decided to annihilate their entire sect. Watching the statue spread destruction, the Supreme Elder appears in the sky, unleashing powerful golden chains that ensnare it. Landing on the statue's arm, one of the agents of the Elder causes the statue to crash to the ground, leaving Li Qiyi's fellows astonished. Realizing that an expert has finally arrived, Li Qiyi smiles while the Supreme Elder requests that he stop this destruction, stating that they should talk things over. In response, Li Qiyi asks why he is not showing his real self, but the Elder states that he acknowledges the fault of his sect for whatever happened and offers him to talk over tea at his temple. Agreeing to the request, Li Qiyi states that he will give him some face, causing Huai Ren to become shocked at his rude demeanor. Sometime later, at the temple, the Elder shows up in front of Li Qiyi, remarking that his sect members were doing what they pleased while he was in seclusion and apologizing for that. Reminding him of some time earlier, when the Elder was telling him to go away, Li Qiyi asks if he has suddenly changed his mind after discovering his ability to control the statues. In response, the Elder starts to laugh, remarking that he is quick to catch on and stating that he is indeed curious about how he learned the long-lost secret language. Coming to the point, the Elder asks if he knows the secret language for all 4 statues, and Li Qiyi agrees. In response, the Elder offers to make him a prime disciple of his sect along with his successor if he gives him the secret language. In response, Li Qiyi argues that he is the prime disciple of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect and has no intentions of betraying his sect. Remarking himself as silly, the Elder states that with the marriage contract between him and the princess, he would not even care about being a prime disciple. With that, he turns to the door and calls out to Shuanger, the princess, telling her to come in and greet Li Qiyi so that they can get to know each other. Shuanger remembers that some time ago, when she was standing over the lake looking at breathtaking scenery in front of her maid, she praised it, calling it mesmerizing. Agreeing, she stated that there comes a time when a person becomes bored with even the most beautiful scenery after looking at it for many years. To cheer her up, her maid replied that her beauty was something of which one could never get bored. Telling her not to feel that way, her maid stated that she would be able to travel across the world when she got married. Hearing that, she started to laugh, causing her maid to become confused. She stated that there is no one in this world who is capable enough of becoming her partner, and her maid agreed. Remembering that conversation, Shuanger looks at Li Qiyi sitting in the room and becomes frustrated. While the Elder keeps calling her in, she takes a sigh, remembering how he became a support for her when she was just a helpless child wandering in the streets. She thinks that she can never repay him for his kindness, no matter what she does. Therefore, she walks ahead, thinking that, as the princess of the Nine Saint Demon Gate, she should consider the will of her master as her duty. So she opens the door of the room and enters, greeting Li Qi, who remarks that she does not look so bad. Hearing this remark, she becomes annoyed, wondering who he is to say such a thing. Considering him to be a foolish individual, she thinks that she must properly tame him after marriage. However, thinking that she should focus on completing the marriage first, she acts humbly in response. Hearing her humble remark, Li Qi smiles, stating that they should just quit this contract, causing both Shuanger and the elder to become shocked. Confused by such a decision, the elder realizes that Li Qi does not want power, wealth, or even beauty, and asks what his goal exactly is, remarking that even he is confused. Thinking something, the elder states that he does not have to worry since the princess is not just a true beauty, but also possesses the talent of royalty, and they can achieve great things together. Although not wanting to agree, Shuanger also shares her agreement, stating that they should not care about what others think. Stating that both of them must have misunderstood, Li Qi explains that he is rejecting this marriage simply because he is not interested in her. Such an insulting remark causes Shuanger to feel enraged, yet she keeps herself composed in front of the elder. Despite being infuriated by this rejection, Shuanger stands silent while the elder speaks up, stating that Li Qi must be upset because of the trial. He explains that it was the elders who made this decision at their discretion, and canceling the marriage is not something that Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect wants either. In response, Li Qi argues that he is the one who personally wants to cancel this marriage, stating that it does not have any reason associated with the sect and telling them not to worry. With that, he gets on his feet, stating that that was all he had to say, and takes his leave. Barely controlling her anger, Shuanger wishes him a safe journey, and the elder does the same. Before leaving, Li Qi asks if the elders still want to know about the secret languages, and the elder agrees, stating that he almost forgot about that. In response, Li Qi states that he will have to make his princess join the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect if he wants that because he is in need of a maid. Saying that he leaves while the princess stands still, trembling with anger because her pride is badly hurt. After leaving the temple, Li Qi reunites with Elder Mo and Huai Ren, who express their shock at his decision, asking if there is a limit to how capricious he can be. In response, Li Qi asks if they expect their sect to be revived if he marries in the Nine Saint Demon Gate. He explains that a few days later, the princess will come and join their sect by herself, which would be much better than marriage. Hearing that, both of them get impressed, calling it an incredible idea, while Li Qi asks if they are not going to question him about it, remarking that it is surprising. Worried about the reaction of the elders, Huai Ren asks how they are going to explain it to them. In response, Li Qi tells him not to worry, stating that he is sure they will understand. However, when they return to their sect and tell the elders about whatever he did, the elders become enraged, asking if he is actually a spy of the Nine Saint Demon Gate. Enraged by his decision, the second elder accuses him of being a spy on the Nine Saint Demon Gate, causing Li Qi to ask the reason behind such a blame. Telling him not to get ahead of himself, the elder states that he will surely expose him. He starts by stating that the token of Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect is not something that anyone can get their hands on, but the demon sect is wealthy enough to have bribed the old devil. Secondly, for a person like him who has a weak physique, defeating the elites of the Nine Saint Demon Sect shows that something is surely suspicious. Hearing that, Huai Ren states that Li Qi was also able to defeat him, which proves his strength, causing the elder to remark that it shows his own weakness and not Li Qi's strength. Taking his claim forward, the elder states that Li Qi also has the ability to control the divine statues within the Nine Saints Demon Gate, which proves his relationship with the Demon Gate. Putting these 3 points together, Kao, the elder, deduces that Li Qi was selected by the Demon King to become one of his henchmen. He accuses Li Qi of being a bug that was sent by them in order to destroy their ancient sect, hearing which Li Qi remarks Kao to have quite a magnificent imagination. Stating that they are currently on the verge of collapsing, Li Qi asks why the demon sect would go to such an extent to sacrifice the lives of their disciples to destroy them. This causes Kao to become enraged while the Supreme Elder stops him from arguing further, stating that they will have to halt the discussion there. After that, he turns to Li Qiye, asking him to explain why he rejected the marriage. In response, Li Qiyi states that he was not just interested in her, and they should not simply depend on this marriage as the only hope of reviving their sect. He explains that after meeting with the Demon King himself, he has found out that the person is someone deeply shrewd and would be fine if the marriage does not succeed. He states that instead of getting used by the Demon King, he has his own plans for the revival of their sect, and Huai Ren also volunteers to work hard for it. In response, the elder remarks that it is easy for him to say and states that as a reward for passing the trial, he will be allowed to take one thing from each of his treasures, techniques, and weapons. With that, the discussion ends, and Li Qiyi leaves the room, followed by Huai Ren, while Cao sits silently, gazing at him. Sometime later, Huai Ren takes Li Qiyi to the legendary treasure trove of their sect, called the Heavenly Crow Peak. Climbing up the stairs of the building, Huai Ren states that there are many treasures of their sect stored inside, some of which are divine weapons. However, just then he stops and looks at Li Qiye, staring at the gigantic statue of the crow, asking if he can also communicate with it. In response, Li Qiyi stays silent and keeps looking at the statue, visualizing a few people over it as if greeting him, calling him Lord Crow. This makes him return to a memory where some of the disciples of Ming Ren made this statue in honor of the crow after hearing about him from Ming Ren. They praised the crow, stating that their sect wouldn't have existed without him, and named it the Heavenly Crow Peak, to which all the cultivators must pay their respects before entering. However, in response to such praise and honor, the cross simply took out his serpent-punishing stick and struck all of them, causing them to fall at a distance. Remembering that, Li Qiyi smiles, remarking that he does not know about any crow, making Huai Ren shocked. Suddenly, he hears the sound of a chain and turns around to find a person sitting on the other side of the statue as a prisoner, asking who he is. In response, Huai Ren states that he does not know much about the person, and even his master is not aware of him. He reveals that this person is one of the disciples of the sect who was considered a genius, but due to a crime that he committed, he got chained for the rest of his life protecting the statue. Turning to Li Qiyi, Huai Ren tells him to be careful so that he does not end up like that person, stating that it is just a gentle reminder. After that, they finally reach a building, introducing it as their most treasured place and the spot where the most favored disciples of the elders often gather. Showing him the 3 buildings for weaponry, treasury, and library, Huai Ren calls them the heritage of their sect, causing Li Qiyi to ask if this is all that is left behind. Telling him to watch his words, Huai Ren states that all the people around them are glaring at him, but he does not seem to care and starts to run inside the library to check it out. Entering the library, Li Qiyi finds a lot of people inside who notice him, recognizing him as the prime disciple who recently joined the sect. They consider him to be a useless individual who has no foundation in cultivation and has only used the ancient order of the sect to obtain his current position. While walking through the library, Huai Ren notices everyone talking about Li Qiyi, discussing different rumors associated with him, including him being a spy of the demon sect. After hearing them quietly for some time, Huai Ren becomes enraged and determined to teach them a lesson, but Li Qiyi stops him, telling him to simply ignore these people. Deciding not to pay heed to them, Li Qiyi takes Huai Ren to one of the book racks, stating that they should start exploring from there. Looking at all the martial techniques, Huai Ren states that they do not seem to be very useful and thinks that just having the invisible sword is good enough. However, telling him not to rush too much, Li Qiyi stops at the book with the title Heavenly Blade, stating that he has found something useful. Just then, a few people come to him asking if he is Li Qiyi, and he turns around, agreeing, remarking that he is just a person who has gotten the position of a prime disciple through his tricks. The people standing behind him state that they do not welcome him here. Zhao Hu, the person leading the trio, states that it would be better for him to give up on the position of prime disciple because it is going to be very hard. In response, Li Qiyi silently gazes at them for a while and turns around, remarking that he got interrupted in his exploration and wonders, where he was causing them to become enraged. Stopping them from extending the matter, Huai Ren calls out to Zhou Hu, saying that he needs to apologize for openly provoking the prime disciple since he cannot get away with this so easily. In response, Zhou Hu starts to mock him, calling him the dog of the prime disciple and grabs him by his clothes, asking how he dared to interfere when he was teaching a lesson to Li Qiye. Stating that Li Qiye can easily kill a strong cultivator, Huai Ren explains that he is just trying to save their lives while Li Qiye also turns around. Remarking that he is courting his own death, Zhou Hu is about to launch a forceful punch at him, but Li Qiye blocks it with his stick, stating that this is not a place for a fight. Li Qiye states that if they really want to fight, they can go outside and fight, and they agree, telling him to leave the sect if he loses. Excited to hear that Huai Ren turns to him, stating that they should show it to him, and he agrees, stating that they need to show the real strength of Huai Ren to them, making him shocked. Telling them not to go back on their words, Zhou Hu and his group challenge them to meet them in the yard. After they leave, Huai Ren turns to Li Qiye, expressing his nervousness, but Li Qiye assures him that he is capable of doing that as the disciple of Elder Mo. In response, Huai Ren states that Elder Mo is like a Buddhist who is very easygoing due to which he is not making any progress in his cultivation. However, Li Qiye tells him not to worry, stating that until he is there to support Huai Ren, he cannot lose. A few moments later, he stands face to face with Zhu Hu, who stands confidently holding his sword. Looking at him trembling with anxiety, Zhou Hu tells him to surrender if he is scared of death, but Huai Ren tells him to start the fight, stating that he is not a pushover either. Standing behind him, Li Qiye tells him not to feel nervous, stating that as long as he follows what he says, Zhou Hu will not even be an opponent for him. Feeling a little encouraged, Huai Ren asks how he should fight, and Li Qiye tells him to fight freely in whatever way he likes, causing Huai Ren to stare at him in shock. Asking where he is looking, Zhou Hu suddenly charges forward with his sword and activates his powers. Watching Zhou approach him at great speed, Huai Ren quickly extends his sword to defend himself. However, as Zhou launches the attack, it becomes difficult for him to bear the overwhelming power, causing him to crash to the ground at a distance. Regaining his balance, Huai Ren realizes that he does not have the power to block the attack, due to which he decides to become the attacker instead. Therefore, he uses the technique of curved water sword art and charges forward, causing Zhao's fellows to become surprised. However, considering the gap in their cultivation, his fellows encourage him to beat Huai Ren. As soon as Huai Ren reaches near him, Zhao launches another strike with his weapon, causing him to crash back to the ground. Watching that, Li Qiye remarks that it is very embarrassing. Li Qiye explains that the way he used the technique of curved water sword art is not correct, making Huai Ren confused. Getting near him, Li Qiye starts murmuring something in his ear, explaining how to use the technique, while Zhou mocks them, stating that a loser teaching another loser is of no use. A few moments later, while they are still murmuring something, Zhu asks how much more time it will take, stating that he does not have much patience. Just then, Huai Ren confidently gets on his feet and turns around, having gotten the true essence of how to use the technique. Walking towards Zhou, he states that they made him wait for too long and charges his sword with his powers, telling him to come again. Looking at the water energy emitting from Huai Ren's sword splitting up in the air, Zhou asks if this is what Li Qiye taught him and remarks that he is going to die without the water shield. Hearing that, Huai Ren remembers asking the same question to Li Qiye, who told him to simply do what he is best at. Li Qiye explained that his secondary technique was unsuitable for direct combat but was exceptionally effective for cleaning clothes. Therefore, he encouraged Huai Ren not to use his inferior technique in battle but rather to employ his superior one to vanquish his opponent. While he is thinking that, Zhou leaps up in the air once again, attempting to launch an attack. In response, Huai Ren activates his laundry stream's curved water sword art. By permeating water vapors within the body of the opponent, he can feel the trajectory of the movements of the opponent and closes his eyes. Feeling Zhou close, he effortlessly dodges the attack with his eyes closed as soon as Zhou launches it. Realizing that he has dodged the attack, Zhou becomes frustrated and tries to launch some more attacks, but Huai Ren keeps dodging all of them. After doing it for some time, Huai Ren follows the next step told by Li Qiye, gathering the water at the tip of his sword and coiling it around the weapon just like he does to remove the stains. After that, he directs this power at Zhou by adding an extra swirl, causing Zhao to drop his sword and fly up in the air in a circular motion. While he is continuously swinging around, Huai Ren reaches the final step, hitting Zhao with all his might and causing him to crash to the ground. Such an attack causes Zhou to lose consciousness while Huai Ren turns around, stating that his cleaning has been completed. Watching that, the fellows of Zhu become shocked and run to him, realizing that he has been defeated for real, yet has gotten his clothes cleaned. Stating that this is not over, Zhou's fellows take him away, while Huai Ren turns to Li Qi, remarking that he is incredible. However, just then he notices a huge pile of books beside Li Qi, who tells him to help him move these into his room. Wondering when he got the time to collect these many books, Huai Ren helps him take them to his room, while reminding him that the elder allowed him to take only one. In response, Li Qi states that all of these belong to a single technique, causing Huai Ren to ask if these are not a bunch of common martial techniques. Li Qi replies that he is taking a whole set of common martial techniques, which makes it one, causing Huai Ren to remark it as cheating. However, stating that he does not have the strength to argue with him that day, Huai Ren gives up. Agreeing, Li Qi states that he needs to have some rest, telling him to come back tomorrow, and Huai Ren walks out of the chamber, yawning. After he leaves, Li Qi closes the door behind him, locks it, and turns around towards the books with a cruel smile on his face. With the help of a candle, he sets all the books ablaze and smiles, stating that it is just a single scripture, when the words physique scripture suddenly appear within the flames. Looking at these words, Li Qi remembers that it is one of the 9 grand heavenly scriptures, and he used to be in charge of keeping them hidden. He remembers that in the past, Ming Ren was able to comprehend the solar immortal physique, which was one of the 12 immortal physiques. Just then, a bright light suddenly emerges from the ash, forming different types of symbols, which he looks at, wondering what he will be able to comprehend from it. Suddenly, he finds himself standing on a gigantic heart floating in a pool of blood, becoming confused. While he is struggling to maintain his balance on the slippery surface of the heart, the pool of blood suddenly causes a huge tide to rise in front of him and strike him. With his entire body soaked in blood, Li Qi sits on the heart, coughing, remarking that it hurts so much to have a giant wave of blood strike right at his heart. However confident to pass through this trial, Li Qi states that he is ready to see how terrifying the situation can be. Yet, just then the surroundings become very peaceful and calm, causing the heart to slowly float over the surface of the blood. Surprised, he wonders if the trial is already over when countless waves of blood rise from all directions, about to strike him, causing him to become shocked. The next day in the training arena, Huai Ren is busy practicing while waiting for Li Qi to come when someone else suddenly arrives. While Huai Ren is busy with his exercise, the person sends 2 daggers in his direction, causing him to become startled and barely dodge them. Turning around in frustration, he finds Liu Yuan, who mocks him as the servant of a useless person, which has brought the same feeling to his personality. Telling him to stop practicing like that, Liu Yuan asks him to come and have a chat with him. In response, Huai Ren politely declines, stating that he has a task at hand and requesting that he not make it hard for him. Stating that he does not care, Liu Yuan reminds him that he hurt his younger brother, Zhou Hu, and he has come to bring justice to him. Just then, another person comes from behind, forbidding Liu Yuan from making things hard for Huai Ren, causing both of them to turn around in confusion. Behind him stands a senior disciple named Fang, who tells Liu Yuan not to disturb Huai Ren when he has an important task at hand and to discuss it with him if he has any grudges. Liu Yuan recognizes the person as Fang Mingtang, the outer senior brother of Huai Ren. Taking out his dagger, Liu Yuan points it at Fang's neck, stating that just because he is a little higher in status does not mean that he can interfere in his matters. Remaining calm in response, Fang tells him not to cross the line when Li Qi finally comes from behind, stating that their sect never had any segregation of inner and outer disciples in the past. Li Qi remarks that now the people are even following the behavior of those lowly sects. With his body and clothes stained with blood, Li Qi asks why they are not bowing down in front of the prime disciple, causing Huai Ren to become surprised. While Fang bows down, paying respect to him, Huai Ren keeps standing, shocked, and asking what happened to him. Meanwhile, Liu Yuan, who is standing, still asks how a useless individual like him dared to act so proudly, asking if he wants to fight against him. Licking his dagger, he vows to make sure to make Li Qi understand what he is truly worthy of. In response, Li Qi first turns to Huai Ren, asking him to clean him up, and he follows. After getting all cleaned up, he walks towards Liu Yuan, asking when they are going to fight, causing Liu to become frustrated and state that they will fight at that very moment. Causing scales to appear on his face and gigantic wings to emerge from his back, Liu states that he should not expect him to go easy on him just because his cultivation is low. He states that he is going to show Li Qi his strongest form in order to crush him and show him what true despair is like. Watching his transformed appearance, Huai Ren and Fang become shocked, realizing that he is taking the battle too seriously, while Li Qi wonders why he always comes across serpents. Just then, Liu rushes towards him with his dagger, attempting to launch an attack. In response, Li Qi also stands in an attacking position with his fist clenched and smiles, remarking that the position of his opponents was exactly what he wanted. With that, both of them charge at each other, causing the dagger of Liu to shatter into countless pieces as soon as it strikes Li Qi's hand. Watching that, Liu becomes utterly bewildered, while Huai Ren becomes astonished, asking what he practiced last night to have such an overwhelming power. Meanwhile, Liu gazes at Li Qi, standing at a distance, becoming shocked at his power, thinking that everyone described him as a common individual with nothing special. Wondering what the people meant by common physique, Liu gazes at Li Qi's body, realizing that it is clearly an overwhelmingly powerful one. Meanwhile, in the chamber, Elder Cao summons Jian Yin, one of his disciples, to ask if he has completed his investigations, and he agrees. Jian reveals that Li Qi went to the Library of Scriptures the previous day and chose a total of 108 mortal martial technique scriptures. Hearing that, Cao becomes surprised, wondering what he is going to do with too many martial techniques. While he is thinking that, Jian informs him that Li Qi also chose the Revolting Moon Law and the Kunpeng's Minor Sixth Form, cursing Cao to become shocked. Putting down his teacup, Cao states that the Revolting Moon Law can forcefully enhance the ability to increase the blood chi of an individual, which will make him suffer if he uses that. Agreeing to it, Jian states that considering the other technique that he chose, Li Qi seems to be having a good insight. In response, Cao states that this is the reason why he was referring to Li Qi as an arrogant individual. He explains that Kunpeng's martial technique is an emperor-grade technique, and its basics are so difficult to cultivate that not even a single individual in their sect is able to do that. However, considering Li Qi's position, Cao states that he cannot allow him to pull the legs of his own disciples, causing Jian to bow down, stating that he will always remember this advice. Just then, Cao asks if Jian sent Liu Yuan to Li Qi, and Jian agrees, stating that they must be fighting by now. In response, Cao tells him to go and have a look, stating that he should not allow Yuan to overdo it. However, in contrast to their expectations, Liu Yuan looks at his broken dagger in shock and then turns to Li Qi, asking what type of technique he cultivated to get his body built like this. Hearing that, Huai Ren and Fang also notice the transformed physique of Li Qi, realizing it to be the hell-suppressing immortal physique, and becoming astonished. Li Qi remembers that it is a technique that allows overwhelming energy to enter the body, tempering it and allowing the practitioner to go into a state of constant cultivation. However, considering if it is because he just comprehended it, Li Qi realizes that he can only see its defensive powers, while in terms of offensive, it seems to be lacking. Meanwhile, Liu Yuan comes to him once again, stating that he does not care if he has a mortal physique or a divine one, but he will surely be taught a lesson. With that, he fixes his dagger once again and charges him with an even more powerful force, telling Li Qi to come at him. Flying up in the air, Liu thinks that it does not matter if Li Qi can enhance his physical body because his own serpent form has an aerial advantage that can break through his defense easily. However, just then, he looks in front of him, shocked to realize that Li Qi has disappeared. While he is looking around in confusion, Li Qi suddenly speaks from behind him, asking if he is looking for him, and launches a forceful punch, which Liu Yuan barely manages to evade. Realizing that he has missed the hit, Li Qi thinks that he still needs more time in order to get used to this power. Meanwhile, Yuan maintains a distance while becoming shocked at Li Qi flying up in the air and asking how he got that ability. Floating in the air with the help of the wings made of blood, Li Qiyi asks, what is so special about flying, and why is he screaming like that? Realizing that he also has the ability to fly, Huai Ren and Fang become further astonished, calling him incredible. Realizing that Li Qiyi is not an ordinary individual, Yuan hesitates for a while and then charges forward, attempting to launch an attack once again. However, before Yuan's weapon can strike him, Li Qiyi bows down to evade it and launches a punch at Yuan's neck. However, Yuan successfully blocks the attack, remarking it to be very slow, and slashes him in response, causing him to go flying backwards. Remarking him to be very resilient, Yuan transforms his dagger into a spear-like weapon, stating that he will see how long Li Qiyi can last. Swinging his weapon up in the air, he calls out to Li Qiyi, asking if he will be able to block this attack, while Li Qiyi smiles, remarking that he surely has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. However, just then, Yuan rushes at him at a great speed, making him confused, and strikes him with such force that he crashes to the ground, realizing that even this much power is not enough. While Yuan reaches for him once again with the intention of piercing his weapon through Li Qiyi's body, Huai Ren and Fang become shocked, telling him to watch out. While lying on the ground in confusion, Li Qiyi suddenly notices the serpent punishing stick coming out by itself and grabs it, hitting Yuan's face with it as soon as he reaches near. As a result of getting hit in the face, Yuan crashes to the ground beside Li Qiyi, who takes a sigh of relief. Happy at managing to hold back, Li Qiyi apologizes for having an unfair advantage. With that, he gets on his feet while Huai Ren and Fang come to him, asking if he is alright, and he agrees. Standing at a distance, Jianan, who watched the fight, stares at Li Qiyi in shock, realizing that whatever he saw during the fight was completely different from the information he was given. Considering the hell-suppressing immortal physique and flying martial arts technique that Li Qiyi was using, Jian thinks that such techniques cannot be acquired from mere scriptures. While he is wondering what could have happened, Cao arrives, remarking that his thoughts are correct since he also felt a sudden burst of qi from Li Qiyi when he used those techniques. Considering that he was utilizing Kunpeng's sixth variant technique, which is the secret of their sect, Cao calls out to the law enforcement squad, ordering them to arrest Li Qiyi. Complying, the members of the law enforcement squad surround Li Qiyi and his fellows, causing Huai Ren to ask what he did, while Fang explains that it was Yuan who started the fight. In response to both of them, Li Qiyi states that they should hear what the person giving the orders wants to say and looks at Elder Cao. Calling out to him, Cao states that he has colluded with the Nine Saint Demon Gate and has stolen their sect's emperor-grade scripture, because of which he will be arrested. Addressing him as a spy, the squad members take him in front of the Supreme Elder, who remarks that there hasn't been a single day of peace since he entered their sect. In response, Li Qiyi asks if the Supreme Elder is really going to believe the accusations. Hearing that, all the elders become silent while Cao speaks up, asserting that Li Qiyi is a spy of the demon sect and has stolen their emperor-grade scripture, due to which he should be punished. In response, Li Qiyi smiles, stating that he needs to give proper evidence for putting such a huge blame on him. In response, Cao states that he has exposed himself by displaying Kunpeng's battle intent in his fight earlier that day. Cao recalls that Li Qiyi denied this before stating that the demon sect does not have any bad intentions towards them, but it has now become clear that they want their secret scriptures. He shares his belief that the demon sect must have developed a technique to hide cultivation and suppressed everything that Li Qiyi possessed, making him appear like a normal individual. After that, Li Qiyi used some sort of method to retrieve the secret scripture and burn it after mastering it. Calling it a remarkable plan, Cao states that he made a mistake by exposing himself during the battle by showing the fighting intent of Kunpeng's technique. Hearing that, Li Qiyi stands silently for some time and then starts to laugh loudly, remarking that the weight of his evidence is great and stating that it was all just his wild imagination. Li Qiyi explains that he only practiced the minor forms of the technique and comprehended its true essence, asking if someone cannot be a genius, causing Cao to become enraged. After hearing all the arguments, the Supreme Elder orders the law enforcement squad to release Li Qiyi, stating that they do not have proper evidence against him. Looking at the disappointed expressions of Cao, Li Chi-yi tells him not to be unhappy and instead blames him for being so outstanding, which caused so much misunderstanding. He states that they should make a bet, asking them to give him the opportunity to personally teach 3 disciples and then have them fight with 3 of Cao's best disciples. In case his disciples win, Li Chi-yi states that Cao will have to acknowledge the fact that he is a true genius. Hearing that, Cao starts to laugh, stating that, being a spy from the 9 Saint Demon Gate, it would be very easy for him to look for elite disciples, and declares that he will not take this bait. Stating that he was aware of his concern, Li Chi-yi reveals that he is going to choose the disciples from their own sect and the ones among the outer disciples, asking if they have any objections. Hearing that, the Supreme Elder stays silent when one of the others remarks that for the outer disciples to surpass the disciples of Cao within a month is technically impossible. However, considering that the conditions were set by a child, the other elder states that they should give him a chance. Adding up, Li Chi-yi states that this will also prove that the outer disciples also have capabilities, which is why, upon winning, he wants them to abolish the inner and outer disciple systems. Realizing that this was his real goal, Cao asks what is wrong with putting those who do not have enough qualifications as outer disciples. In response, Li Chi-yi calls out to the Supreme Elder, stating that since the founding of their sect, every disciple had an equal chance for cultivation, asserting that these baseless rules should be annulled. In response, the Supreme Elder takes a sigh, stating that their sect has lost its previous glory and the resources are very limited, due to which they had no choice but to make the segregation. However, Li Chi-yi asserts that this is the reason why he is setting this bet to prove that these disciples have the qualifications to be paid attention to. Impressed by his preaching style, the Supreme Elder states that he does not have any objections and turns to Cao, asking for his opinion. Stating that they should give him a chance if he wants, Cao turns to Li Chi-yi declaring that he will be considered a spy if he loses, telling him to not ask for evidence in that case. Stating that it is only going to happen if he loses, Li Chi-yi agrees to the condition. Sometime later, at the stone washing cave, the training ground for outer disciples, numerous disciples are busy training under the supervision of a person. Just then, Li Chi-yi arrives, accompanied by Huai Ren, who states that the gap between them and inner disciples is very huge, asking if he will really be able to do that. Hearing their voice, the person training the disciples turns around, stating that those who are not involved in the training are not allowed to enter. Looking at the person, Li Chi-yi asks who he is, and Huai Ren introduces the person as Elder Zhou Yanhai, who is in charge of teaching them. Huai Ren reveals that this person is the lackey of the second disciple, and every time he notices a disciple with good skills, he first recommends them to Cao. Hearing that, Li Chi-yi calls out to Zhou, asking if he has heard about the bet he has made with the elder, and he responds rudely, asking what he has to do with it. In response, Li Chi-yi tells him to take a break for a month, stating that he will be taking care of the cultivation of the disciples during that time, causing Zhao to ask about his qualifications. In response, Li Chi-yi simply puts his hands on Zhao's shoulders, causing him to get on his knees, astonished by his incredible strength. Realizing that Li Chi-yi has suppressed him with his single hand, Zhou becomes shocked, asking him to let him go. Watching that, all the outer disciples also become surprised, wondering who that individual is, when one of them introduces him as the prime disciple of their sect. Watching Li Chi-yi come towards them, they realize that he is going to take the position of their teacher in order to train them, while Zhao runs away in fear. Reaching near the group of disciples, Li Chi-yi introduces himself as the prime disciple of the sect, stating that they can simply call him the elder brother. Informing them that he will be in charge of training them for the next month, Li Chi-yi states that he would like to ask a question before starting. With that, he says that all of them aspire to walk in the path of cultivation, but instead are being taught by a person who is an underling of Cao, and asks if they are really happy about that. He states that he has come there to turn things around, causing all the disciples to be surprised. He reveals that in a month's time, when they win the battle against the disciples of Cao, the system of segregation between inner and outer disciples will be abolished. Therefore, he asks them to accept his teaching in order to contribute to this aim. In response, only one of them expresses his enthusiasm about contributing to the motive, causing Li Chi-yi to ask why others are not responding. Just then, one of them raises their hand, stating that they want to ask a question, causing Li Qi to turn to them. Addressing him, one of the disciples, who is a young girl, asks how Li Qi is going to train them fully in 1 month to be able to defeat the elite disciples of Elder Cao. Remarking it to be a good question, Li Qi takes out his serpent-punishing stick, stating that they will soon come to know about how he is going to train them. Standing behind him, Huai Ren smiles, telling them to mentally prepare themselves and remarking that Li Qi is a very strict teacher. Hearing that, Li Qi turns to him, asking why he is standing there and instructing him to join the group. This causes him to become shocked, realizing that he is also a part of this. After that, the whole day passes, and in the end, Li Qi stands yawning and asks his disciples about how the day was. Watching them all lying on the ground as if utterly exhausted, he states that they all seem to have gained a lot. Huai Ren, whose face is badly swollen, states that they need the assistance of the medical squad. In response, Li Qi states that he has already called for it, assuring them that none of them is going to die. Telling Li Qi to leave it to them, the members of the medical squad start their work, treating the disciples one by one while assuring them that they will be completely fine by the next day. Huai Ren, who is treated by a squad member, expresses his agony, stating that he won't be able to move, but the person replies that it is because of fatigue, which will be over soon. Hearing that, Li Qi turns to Huai Ren, declaring that he will have to start his training the next day, causing him to become shocked. Walking away, Li Qi states that the schedule of the disciples is going to be receiving training from him in the afternoon and receiving treatment in the evening. Li Qi states that if they do not want to end up like that again, they will have to work hard and get stronger. Realizing that they will have to bear this torture for 1 whole month, all of them become shocked and start to miss the time they spent with their family. The next morning, while the Supreme Elder sits in his chamber, the door of his room suddenly opens and Li Qi enters, making him surprised by his unexpected arrival. Li Qi states that there was something he was very confused about, which is why he decided to directly ask him about it. Hearing that the Supreme Elder asks if his question is related to why Elder Cao is targeting him. Agreeing, Li Qi states that Cao was initially very supportive towards him, but now his attitude has turned 180 degrees, asking about the reason behind that. In response, the Supreme Elder starts laughing, stating that he expected Li Qi to know everything, making him confused. The Supreme Elder reveals that Cao used to be the leader of the sect, but because he caused a lot of trouble when he was in charge, he had to be taught a lesson in order to behave himself. The Elder explains that Cao's arrogant side was still dwelling on this incident, which is why he put all of his blood, sweat, and tears into nurturing his disciples. Hearing this, Li Qi inquires if Cao wants to nurture a disciple to be the sect leader himself, and the Supreme Elder agrees, revealing that his disciple Jian is a remarkable genius. Originally, Jian was supposed to be the candidate for the position of prime disciple, but because the Supreme Elder abolished that position, it always remained empty. This makes Li Qi realize that Cao was apparently supporting him, but actually wanted him to reenact the prime disciple system, and they will have to wait for his death to do that. Meanwhile, the Supreme Elder explains that the reason for Cao's attitude is the fact that he did not expect him to hold on to this position. Having made sense of all the situation, Li Qi then takes his leave and turns around to go and train his disciples. Just then, the Supreme Elder stops him, stating that Cao's deduction is not completely illogical as well, and declares that if he ever finds that Li Qi is betraying the sect, he will be beheaded. In response, Li Qi tells him to relax, stating that this sect does not only belong to him alone, but is home to all of them. After that, Li Qi goes to the location where he has to train his disciples, finding their number to have decreased significantly. Huai Ren explained that half of the disciples have fallen ill because they were unable to endure the harsh training. In response, Li Qi smiles, stating that he did expect more of them to leave, but did not know that a lot of them have so much integrity. In response, one of them speaks up, expressing his determination to never back down. Turning to that disciple, Li Qi recognizes him as Fang, who states that he is tempering their will and strengthening their hearts, because of which he will never back down. Hearing that the girl standing next to him states that it is not the same for her, she feels like this whole thing is just to beat them up and would like to withdraw, stating that each of the strikes he has given them was on their weak spots, which reflects that he wants them to overcome their own weaknesses. Remarking her to be very smart, Li Qiyi asks her name, and she reveals it to be Liu Jianing. After that, he turns to Huai Ren, asking what he considers to be the reason behind him beating them up. In response, Huai Ren replies that he has never really thought about it but trusts that Li Qiyi must be doing this for their own benefit. Hearing that another one of the disciples agrees, stating that it is better to receive training from him instead of their former instructor. Following that, all the disciples join them, expressing their determination to return this favor to him one day and never forget the one who is thinking about their good. Hearing all that, Li Qiyi simply nods, stating that everyone has their own reasons, and he does not want to declare someone as right or wrong. Stating that the determination of a person is the most important thing, Li Qiyi instructs them to believe in themselves, stating that they will be the cornerstones of the sect in the future. Taking out his stick once again, Li Qiyi states that all the disciples will be divided into teams of 3 to go against him, and during the process, he will be pointing out their flaws. With that, he makes up the first team, comprising Huai Ren, Fang, and Liu Jianing, who charge at him with their weapons while Li Qiyi keeps standing still. As Huai Ren reaches near and launches an attack, Li Qiyi points out a flaw in his attacking style and hits him with the stick. After that, he blocks Fang's attack, remarking that he is suited for mountain-conquering spearmanship, but hesitates so much and hits him with the stick. Just then, Liu Jianing brings her whip near him, attempting to launch an attack, which he effortlessly evades. He remarks that the technique she is using is the one in which the patterns of attack change according to the movements and instructs her to target the blind spot of her target and launch an attack. With that, he hits her head with the stick and then jumps on the ground, stating that he will give them some time to relax and calling out to the next group. As he continues with the training, Zhou watches him from behind the stone and remarks that he was successful in persuading some of the disciples to withdraw from the training. However, watching the others tirelessly train, he realizes that they have already been brainwashed by Li Qiyi and will not listen to him. Hearing that, Jian, who is standing behind him, asks if he wants to say that he will not be able to win against these disciples. In response, Zhao requests that he not misunderstand, stating that he is just following the orders of Kao, causing Jian to remark that trying to improve cultivation through battle is a weird idea. Impressed by his remark, Zhao states that there can be no way in which low-class teaching methods can catch his eye. Calling it boring, Jian turns around, stating that he has sent a message to 2 of his fellows who have a level of cultivation similar to his, and with their help, victory is guaranteed for them. In the evening, after all the disciples leave, Li Qiyi stops Huai Ren, Fang, and Liu Jianing to stay behind, making them confused. Telling them not to worry, he states that it is not for extra training and shows them 3 scriptures stating that he has spent an entire night modifying these techniques. He tells them that these scriptures have been revised based on their unique traits, making them personalized versions of the martial techniques. Confused, Huai Ren asks if they need to retrain themselves, and Li Qiyi agrees, stating that they not only need to work on the techniques, but also the cultivation aspects associated with them. Turning to Fang, Li Qiyi remarks him as someone who does not falter and embodies the value of justice and instructs him to incorporate his qualities into his martial technique. After that, he turns to Liu Jianing, remarking that she is a very smart individual and stating that she is able to infer from this scripture and come up with something even better. Lastly, turning to Huai Ren, Li Qiyi simply instructs him to work harder, causing him to become annoyed, stating that he has not given any sort of praise to him. Li Qiyi states that if nothing goes wrong, the 3 of them will be the ones representing him for his bet against Kao, telling them not to let his hopes down and leaves. 7 days later, all of the disciples of the sect watch in astonishment as Huai Ren, Fang, and Liu Jia skillfully fight against Li Qiyi. Stating that their moves are not bad, Li Qiyi still hits Fang with his stick, stating that they are not as good since their flaws are too big. However, he is surprised to see that Fang is still holding up against the attack of his stick, while Huai Ren and Liu Jia activate their powers once again, launching simultaneous attacks on him. The impact of such a powerful attack causes Li Qiyi to drift backwards while getting astonished with their prowess, remarking it to be wonderful. Realizing that Li Qiyi has been pushed back for the first time, All the disciples become surprised, calling the trio incredible. Watching their reaction, Li Chi-yi asks what they are so excited about, stating that if they follow the methods he has modified for them, they will easily be able to reach this level. Looking at the huge number of disciples, Liu Jia remarks that they are continuing to increase with every passing day. Just then, Zhou comes from behind, followed by the law enforcement squad, forbidding them to move. Watching them, Li Chi-yi starts to laugh, remarking that Kao has no other thing to do except arrest him all the time. Meanwhile, Zhu instructs the squad members to surround all the disciples for him. He declares that Li Chi-yi's indulging his disciples and instigating them to practice demonic arts is a heinous crime. Zhou states that now that he has been caught doing that crime, he should be punished for it. In response, Li Chi-yi remarks that it is a useless intervention that is never going to end. Meanwhile, Fang tries to explain to the squad members that they have a misunderstanding, stating that Li Chi-yi had never told them to use any demonic art. In response, Zhou bursts into anger, telling the other disciples to not leave their place and stating that it would have been impossible for them to become this strong without using demonic arts. Shuai Ren replies, stating that they have only relied on Li Chi-yi's modified cultivation methods to improve their strength. Meanwhile, Li Chi-yi smiles, thinking that he refined the methods and made them similar to the original ones, compared to which the growth of these revised versions is considered slow. However, even he would not want to cultivate the original version for the second time, which is why Ming Ren hid the original version of the method. While he is thinking about that, Zhou keeps arguing with the other disciples, who are not ready to believe his words. After getting frustrated by explaining to them without getting any results, Zhou tells them to stop arguing if they do not want to be considered traitors. In response, Li Chi-yi steps forward, asking if Zhao is not overestimating himself, causing him to become frightened. Feeling intense pressure from the presence of Li Chi-yi near him, Zhao wonders how he can give him such a feeling. Meanwhile, Li Chi-yi asks if they really think they have the power to catch him, causing Zhao to become furious. Running back, Zhou declares him to be a demon and hides behind the heads of the law enforcement team, stating that he will be leaving this place to them. In response, the two muscular men ask why Elder Cao would bother with someone like him, causing Li Chi-yi to smile in excitement, calling them the new henchmen of the Elder. Sensing his aggressive aura, the two men realize that Cao was right about whatever he said and remark that he is indeed a demonic cultivator. Activating their powers, they state that they must take him down. Complying, all the other members of the squad also activate their powers, creating a soul lock formation to ensnare Li Chi-yi within. Slowly getting trapped inside the tentacles made by their powers, Li Chi-yi finds it very funny for them to use such a trick. Worried about him, all of the disciples start to move ahead in order to help him, but Li Chi-yi stops them, telling them to stay back, stating that they cannot confine him with tricks like these. Hearing that, Zhao starts to laugh, asking if he is still boasting about this and stating that even an elder will have a hard time dealing with this trick, telling him to quietly surrender. In response, Li Chi-yi calls out to the squad leaders, asking if they should not arrest him after gathering sufficient evidence instead of taking an action based on mere speculation. Stating that they will gather evidence later, the people remark that what is more important for them at the moment is to get rid of his influence within their sect. They declare that they will not allow someone like him to exist in this sacred sect. They remark that a person who has fallen into the demonic path will always remain a slave to the demonic path for his entire life. Hearing that, Li Chi-yi starts to laugh loudly and breaks all the tentacles, ensnaring him into countless pieces. Realizing that he has broken the soul formation with his sheer strength, the leading members of the squad become shocked. Calling it ridiculous, Li Chi-yi states that someone who has fallen into the demonic path will not even bother wasting time with them, telling them to prepare themselves to die. Stating that he has shown his true nature, the squad leader instructs their subordinates to kill him, causing them all to rush towards him. Remarking it to be a joke, Li Chi-yi goes ahead and swiftly overpowers them all, hitting them and causing them to crash to the ground one by one. After defeating all of them, Li Chi-yi turns to the two seniors standing at a distance, stating that it is their turn to die. In response, both of them summon their weapons, remarking that he is overconfident and deciding to go at him together. With that, both of them charge at him together, seeing which, Li Chi-yi thinks that it is time for him to test his cultivation. Just then, both of them launch a simultaneous attack while Li Qi blocks them with his arms, causing them to become shocked. With wings emerging from his back, he states that he gave them a chance, but it was useless. Realizing what ability he is about to use, Fang becomes surprised, while Huai Ren remarks that it is much more restrained compared to when he used it on them during practice. Stating that it is now his turn, Li Qi causes an overwhelming energy to surround his body, which leads both of the squad members to crash to the ground. Consumed by utter disbelief, they realize that Li Qi is displaying Kunpeng's battle intent. However, considering his chaotic aura, they remark that it looks like a crow's wrath and that their elder is in grave danger when Li Qi launches a punch at one of them, causing him to die. Li Qi then turns to the other one, who is watching him from a distance, stating that it is now his turn. With that, he reaches near the person at a great speed and launches a punch on his face, causing him to crash to the ground just like his fellow. Turning to Zhao, Li Qi tells him not to worry, stating that it is finally his turn, causing Zhao to run in fear, calling out to Teo to save him. However, before he can get away, Li Qi catches up to him and uses his bare hand to pierce through his heart. As a result of such a deadly attack, Zhou crashes to the ground, becoming lifeless. Just then, the Supreme Elder and Cao arrive on the scene, shocked to see the bloodshed, and ask why he has done all that. Enraged by his act, Cao turns to the Supreme Elder, stating that they cannot keep a person like Li Qi in their sect. Watching his powerful disciples lying dead on the ground, Cao tells him to take responsibility for what he has done and vows to kill him in retaliation for doing this. Happy from the inside, Cao thinks that Li Qi's arrogant personality is his biggest weakness, and putting a little pressure on him causes him to bounce back regardless of the consequences. Considering that he has completely overpowered Li Qi in every way, Cao thinks that there is not just a single method to defeat people like him. Just then, the Supreme Elder calls out to Li Qi, stating that he has actually killed people who had no will to fight, although those people provoked trouble. However, the Elder states that he did not have to go this far, causing Cao to become shocked at this remark. Trying to justify the act of those people, Cao states that the group of people killed by Li Qi included an elder as well as the members of the law enforcement team. Hearing that, the Supreme Elder turns to him, asking how the law enforcement team is related to this matter and if they acted without taking permission from him. The Supreme Elder asks if Cao thinks that the law enforcement team does not need his permission and can take anyone at will, causing Cao to become speechless. Meanwhile, Li Qi watches their conversation quietly, knowing that everything is going in his favor. He feels glad at the fact that Cao attempted to target him and became the target of the Supreme Elder himself. Meanwhile, Cao states that he will give a complete report to the Elder and states that the person killed by Li Qi discovered that he was using demonic methods for making his disciples strong. Watching the conversation from a distance with Cao standing in a posture of apologizing to the Supreme Elder, all the disciples become surprised. Meanwhile, Cao requests the Supreme Elder to make a clear decision, stating that Zhou and the two protectors proved their judgment through their lives. He declares Li Qi to be bloodthirsty, a brutal fanatic, and a person who has stepped into the devil's side, while Li Qi keeps smiling at his remarks. Looking at his expression, Cao becomes frustrated, asking how this kind of virtue can be worthy of the position of chief disciple, and the Supreme Elder agrees. While they are discussing, a person suddenly calls out to them, informing them of the arrival of the Princess of the Nine Saint Demon Gate, making them surprised. Considering it to be very unexpected, Cao asks if the engagement wasn't cancelled, and the person reveals that she has requested to meet Li Qi. Realizing that she has come to meet Li Qi, Cao becomes frustrated, while all of the outer disciples become surprised, realizing that Li Qi has indeed done what he said. Meanwhile, Li Qi smiles, thinking that she came just at the right time to talk about something that would ruin the big picture. Therefore, he starts to run away, stating that he will take his leave since the princess has specifically called out to him. After he leaves, Cao turns to the Supreme Elder, stating that this visit affirms Li Qi's connection with the demon sect. However, instead of agreeing, the Elder tells him to go and investigate the purpose behind her visit. A few moments later, Shuanger teleports to the Cleansing Incense ancient sect, introducing herself and remarking it to be a pleasure to visit this place. Asking for forgiveness for coming uninvited, she expresses her honor to be welcomed by the elders. Remarking that she is acting too humble, the Supreme Elder states that being able to receive her forgiveness after what Li Qi did to her has made him very grateful. With that, he inquires about the reason behind her visit, causing her to become silent in response. She remembers that she felt shocked when her elder ordered her to visit the cleansing incense ancient sect and follow Li Qi. The elder stated that he knew she was upset, but there was no other choice. He revealed that, although Li Qi did not have extraordinary cultivation, he possessed an immense amount of knowledge that even the elder himself could not see through. Therefore, he stated that the reason he was sending her to the sect was to uncover his secrets, since they would be vital to their sect. This caused Schwanger to become frustrated, wondering if Li Qi was more important than her. Seeing her expressions, the elder remarked that she was jealous. She stated that she was not. The elder stated that what was important for them was not to know about Li Qi, but to find out how he managed to clear the trial. Considering that he did not have any cultivation or extraordinary powers, the elder stated that Li Qi solely relied on his knowledge, asserting how important that piece of knowledge must be. Therefore, he wanted Schwanger to do a favor for him and for the future of the Nine Saint Demon Gate by becoming a follower of Li Qi. Remembering that mission of hers, Schwanger states that Li Qi is peerless in his generation, and his cultivation is profound with a firm will in pursuing his path of Tao. Therefore, she reveals that the reason she is here is to follow Li Qi and learn from him. Hearing so much praise for him, all the elders are shocked, while Li Qi smiles, proudly stating that this is something that completely describes him. Walking to the princess, Li Qi states that he did not expect her sight to be this strong and allows her to become one of his followers, causing her to express her gratitude. However, just then, Elder Kao intervenes, telling them to stop for a moment. Calling out to the princess, Kao states that Li Qi has just revealed his true nature, and it would be better for her to stay away from him. Hearing that, she turns to Li Qi, asking if he got into some kind of trouble. In response, Li Qi smiles and turns to Kao, clarifying that she is just a service maid and not even an outer disciple, causing her to feel embarrassed. He states that unlike them, he is not a person to use such tricks, and he tells him to include whatever happened that day in their bet. Li Qi declares that the winner will have the final say, asking if he has any objections to it. Frustrated, Kao has no choice but to agree, thinking that Li Qi managed to save himself once again. Sitting in his chamber at night, Kao expresses his frustration in front of his disciples, who request that he calm down, stating that everything will be fine if they win this bet. Jian, who is a confirmed candidate for this bet, states that he and the brothers Lin Lei and Lin Feng will surely win. Agreeing to this, Kao takes out some bottles from his pocket, stating that it is time for them to repay the favor. The next morning, Li Qi introduces the princess to all the outer disciples training under him, causing them to become surprised. Looking at their expressions, Schwanger becomes frustrated, thinking that she is being treated like some sort of exotic creature. Looking at all of Li Qi's disciples, she thinks that they do not look reliable and that by making them fight against the elite disciples, Li Qi is surely overestimating himself. Thinking it would be a great opportunity for her to gain his favor, Schwanger calls out to him, stating that she seems to have come at the right time. Agreeing to that, Li Qi considers her arrival to be great, stating that there is something he wants her help with, causing the disciples to wonder if he will make her personally teach them. However, to their shock, he hands her a broom, stating that because the disciples are busy with the training, she needs to take care of the cleaning work, causing everyone to get shocked. Holding the broom, Schwanger asks if he told her to come to the cleansing incense ancient sect all for this. Agreeing, Li Qi turns around, telling her not to go slacking on it, causing her to get overwhelmed in anger wanting to torture and kill him. Starting the cleaning work, she thinks that she cannot let her anger ruin her mission, while Li Qi looks at her and gives a cruel smile. Turning back to the 3 disciples he selected, he tells them to charge at him with haste at first. Watching them, the princess becomes curious to know how capable they are. Just then, all 3 of them activate their powers, causing them to exude a powerful aura, making her confused. She realizes that all 3 of them are just a step away from reaching the true fate realm, and she wonders if this is the level the outer disciples should have. Meanwhile, all three of them launch a simultaneous attack on Li Qiyi, who manages to block them, remarking that they seem to be quite vigorous. In response to Li Qiyi's remark about them being vigorous, the three of them state that they have a guest and need to exert all their effort to win in front of her. In response, Li Qiyi takes out his stick, stating that he has already told them that she is just a servant there, and starts to counter the attacks. Meanwhile, Shuanger, who is continuously hearing the claim that she is a servant, bursts into anger, remarking that Li Qiyi surely knows how to get on people's nerves. However, looking at Li Qiyi dealing with three true Fate Realm cultivators simultaneously, she becomes surprised considering that he is apparently not using any martial techniques. Looking at the stick in his hand, she realizes that it is doing all the fighting, making him powerful regardless of any martial techniques. Remembering the words of her elder, she states that she has finally come to understand what he meant when he said that Li Qiyi is more than what he looks like. Meanwhile, Li Qiyi overpowers all three of them and calls out to the next group to launch an attack while she smiles, thinking that she will surely dig out all his secrets one day. 1 month later, the day of the competition finally comes, with Li Qiyi and his disciples standing in front of Cao and his disciples. Standing in between them, the Supreme Elder shares his hope that this battle is going to resolve all the conflicts between them, regardless of its outcome. After saying that, he moves towards the rules and explains that the order of participants will be decided through drawing lots by the judge, allowing the use of weapons and martial techniques. He then explains the 3 scenarios in which the winner is decided. The first one among them is that when a team member surrenders, it is only accepted when the captain announces that they have given up. Secondly, when the challenger gets knocked out of the arena, and the third one is when one is completely knocked out and unable to continue the battle. After explaining the rules, the Supreme Elder gives them a final reminder, stating that as members of the same sect, they should make sure not to harm the lives of others. Turning to his disciples, Cao repeats the same direction, telling them not to harm the lives of their opponents, and they comply, stating that they will try their best. However, knowing that it is just sarcasm, his disciple assures him that they will surely go after their lives, causing Fang to realize that they are filled with killing intent. Knowing that they are planning on killing them from the start, Fang and his fellows think that they need to be very careful. However, Li Qiyi remarks that it is great, stating that they can now kill the disciples of Cao without any hesitation when the signal to start the battle is finally given. Stating that the most awaited moment for them all has finally arrived, a person appears in front of them, stating that he is going to be the judge for that battle. Standing at one of the corners, a group of outer disciples encourage Li Qiyi and his fellows to win the bet. Meanwhile, on the other side, the disciples of Cao encourage their fellows to teach Li Qiyi and his group a lesson. Meanwhile, the judge announces the participants of the first round to get on the stage. The first battle is announced between Lu Jianing from the outer disciples and Lin Lei, a disciple of Elder Cao. As they both come face to face on the stage, the judge asks if they are ready. Turning to Lu Jianing, Lin Lei tells her to surrender in advance to avoid dying a horrible death. In response, Jianing tells him not to worry, stating that his death is going to be even more horrible than that of his master. Stating that it is enough with the talking, the judge announces the match to begin, causing Jianing to charge her whip with her overwhelming powers. Seeing that, Lin Lei remarks that this is not how they are supposed to use a whip, and this is what makes her feel like a living practice dummy. Asking if that is so, she starts using her qi to control the whip, leading Lin Lei to become shocked. Activating her skill of Flying Dragon Whip, she launches a powerful attack on Lin Lei, causing him to experience intense agony. After launching the attack, she remarks that he is the one who seems to be a living practice dummy to her instead. With that, she hits him with the dragon's fiery breath, causing him to crash to the ground, which leads the judge to become shocked. Seeing their member lying on the ground, the other disciples of Kao become enraged, calling it a despicable act of attacking from behind. Meanwhile, the outer disciples become happy, praising Jianing for showing such great tricks. Turning to Lin Lei, she remarks that the winner has been decided. In response, Lin Lei gets on his feet, stating that although he did not want to say this, he did not expect her to be so resilient. However, he asks if she really thinks that he is going to take this hit easily. He reveals that when she was about to deal a direct hit on him, he preemptively protected his back. Yet Jianing mocks him, stating that he fell on the ground despite knowing that. In response, Lin Lei starts to laugh, asking if she really expects to win with just that, and charges forward, stating that after she has shown what she has, it is his turn. Swinging her whip in the air, Jia Ning states that she will not let him get close too easily and launches a 5 flying dragon cannon attack on him. Making a protective shield around him, Lin Lei states that her pesky attacks can no longer be useful to him. Unleashing countless spears, Lin Lei thinks that after using such a formidable dragon attack, a lot of her energy must have been wasted. This, according to him, would have made the defense of her body vulnerable, considering which he launches a powerful attack on her. In response, she moves her whip in a unique manner, forming a protective shield that blocks the attack, leaving Lin Lei shocked. Watching the fight with interest, Li Qiyi remembers that such a powerful comeback from Jia Ning's side is a result of her training with the serpent-punishing stick. After getting hit by the stick countless times, Li Qiyi remembers that she came up with her own method to block those attacks, which is something she is currently using as well. Meanwhile, Jia Ning turns her long whip into a lash, making Lin Lei shocked, and states that it is still a type of whip. Stating that she is not going to lose in a close-range fight using this weapon, Jia Ning charges at him, causing both of them to clash once again. Watching the fight from a distance, Shuanger becomes surprised and turns to Li Qiyi, asking who Lin Lei is. Remarking that he is suppressing his own power, she asks if he is also a member of Li Qiyi's group, but he disagrees. Meanwhile, Jia Ning keeps beating Lin Lei up with her lash, causing Jian to become enraged, remarking that Lin Lei is an idiot who seems to have learned nothing during his training. However, Kao tells them not to worry, stating that Lin Lei is suppressing his own powers. He reveals that, as Lin Lei has consumed the frenzy pill, he has to suppress the corrosion within his blood for 25 minutes and will soon have a huge surge in power. Kao explains that, against a person who has fallen into the path of a demon, they need to at least have such an approach and remarks that it is finally time. In the arena, Lin Lei suddenly crashes to the ground, having sustained too many injuries. Watching him, Jia Ning remarks that he is not even able to get up and has lasted for only a little time, causing Huai Ren to become anxious, wondering why she is saying a thing like that. In response, Lin Lei, who was suppressing his energy until now, bursts into anger, vowing to kill her, and reveals his true powers, causing a very strong aura to surround him. Instead of getting scared, Jia Ning starts to laugh, stating that he got angry because he could not take the attacks anymore. However, just then Lin Lei leaps up in the air and brings his weapon near her with such speed, which leaves her shocked. Confused about how to block the attack, she starts swinging her whip, attempting to do it, but Lin Lei's spear still slashes through her arm. This makes her realize how fast his opponent has suddenly become, making her unable to read his moves. Turning to her once again, Lin Lei reveals a fierce killing intent in his eyes, making her shocked and launches a powerful attack, which she barely manages to dodge. As she struggles to maintain a distance, Lin Lei keeps launching countless powerful attacks, causing her to become anxious. Thinking that she must give a fitting reply, she transforms her weapon back into a whip and strikes Lin Lei's face with such force that it causes him to crash to the ground. Sitting on the ground, he realizes that he was careless and did not notice her trick of transforming her lash back to its original shape. Meanwhile, Jia Ning sits on the ground, taking deep breaths, feeling glad that she managed to launch a strike on him and save her life. Watching Lin Lei sit still on the ground, Kao wonders why he is not making a move. Meanwhile, Shuanger remarks that the opponent was hiding his true power until now and suggests Li Qiyi surrender. However, Li Qiyi disagrees, stating that if it is about them hiding a trick up their sleeve, then Jia Ning has not even shown her killer technique yet. Meanwhile, Jia Ning stands on her feet, thinking that she has no choice but to use that move. She remembers that Li Qiyi told him that the whip was not a suitable weapon for her, making her confused. Li Qiyi explained that the reason behind it was because she is very impatient, and in order to use such a weapon, one must be versatile and adaptive. In response, Jia Ning stated that she had already figured it out, which is why she uses retraction melee mode as a countermeasure. Li Qiyi explained that she needed to work out how to become offensive, causing her to ask if you wanted her to throw away all her cultivation and start from the beginning. In response, Li Qiyi stated that they have one living example in front of them and pointed towards Fang, explaining that her personality fits best with the attack patterns of a spear. He stated that if she could incorporate both the toughness of a spear and the adaptiveness of a whip, this might become a killer technique of hers. Remembering that, Jia Ning decides to finally put this into use, while Lin Li declares that the next move of his is going to take her life. However, before he can make a move, he becomes astonished to find Jia Ning's whip rolling up and forming a huge rod, which leaves all the onlookers surprised. Transforming her whip into an elastic spear, she declares that they will end this battle with a spear fight. Observing the abrupt transformation of a whip into a spear, the judge is taken aback, remarking it as an unexpected move. Meanwhile, Lin Lei becomes enraged, questioning whether she's underestimating him by engaging in a spear battle. In response, she instructs him to speak less and confront her, prompting both of them to leave their places in charge towards each other, leaving onlookers astounded. As they draw near, both of them unleash potent attacks, resulting in a tremendous overflow of power. Watching both of them fight against each other with an equal level of power, the fellows of Lin Lei become shocked, wondering how Jia Ning got such immense power instantly. In response, Jian states that it might be due to the distribution of power. He explains that some time ago she was focusing all of her power on her weapon in order to maintain its strength, but now she has channeled all of her power into enhancing her speed. Hearing that his other fellow asks if she is really that strong, Jian agrees, acknowledging the fact that they underestimated her. However, considering her fatal injuries, he states that it will only be a matter of time before her stamina is completely depleted, which is something Lin Lei has also noticed. Meanwhile, Lin Lei charges his weapon with an overwhelming power, stating that it is time to go all out and settle this. Watching the charged spear come in her direction at a great speed, Jia Ning becomes shocked and is unable to do anything before the weapon strikes her, causing her to experience intense pain. However, instead of crashing to the ground, she begins to smile, leaving Lin Lei confused. Revealing her spear transformed back into a whip, she shows him his weapon ensnared by the whip, remarking that she was waiting for this very moment. Wondering what type of individual she is, Lin Lei tries to pull his weapon back while realizing that she did not want to settle things with a spear fight in the first place. Meanwhile, Jian Ning pulls his spear in her direction, causing it to go flying upwards, while Lin Lei runs after it, thinking that he must get it back as soon as possible. However, before he can get hold of his weapon, Jia Ning makes her whip hold his neck tightly and pulls him downward, causing him to crash to the ground. Watching this, the audience from both sides reacts differently while Jia Ning holds the whip tightly and starts to torture Lin Lei, telling him to accept his defeat. However, no matter how hard she tries, he does not agree to give up, causing her to increase her torture, which makes him lose his consciousness slowly. Finally, he crashes to the ground, becoming motionless while the judge declares that the winner of the competition has been decided. While the judge announces Jian Ning to be the winner of the first round, Jian Ning starts to feel guilty, thinking that she has killed someone. Looking at her, Li Qiyi remarks that he has never seen a winner that looks as though their soul has left their body. Stating that he is not good at cheering people up, Li Qiyi turns to Shuang'er, asking if she can do it for him, and she complies. Going near her, Shuang'er tells her not to be disheartened for killing someone, especially when she is the person who has killed someone for the first time, increasing her guilt further. Meanwhile, the signal is made for the next battle to begin, and the judge announces it to be between Lin Feng and Fang Mingtang, telling them both to get on the stage. While Fang gets ready for the battle, Huai Ren wishes him the best of luck, and he tells them not to worry, stating that he will surely win the battle. From the other side, Lin Feng also moves forward while Jian expresses his sorrow for the death of his brother, but he replies that one should not feel sorry for the deaths of weaker ones. Stating that he was just a dumb and disappointing little brother, Lin Feng pulls out his cloak and stands face to face with Fang. As both of them get ready to start the battle, a signal is given for them to begin. Right after getting the signal, Lin Feng rushes towards Fang and launches a swift attack. However, to his surprise, the weapon does not cut Fang's body too deeply, causing him to wonder if he has a tough physique. However, deciding to see how tough he actually is, Lin Feng starts to launch countless powerful strikes while Fang stands still. After some time, Fang holds his spear tightly and swings it in the air, causing Lin Feng to leap up and easily dodge the attack, asking if that was all he got. Striking his spear with both his swords, Lin Feng then successfully maintains a distance, causing all the other cow's disciples to become astonished by the move. Watching Feng panting, Huai Ren remarks that he has been completely oppressed, but Li Qi tells him not to panic, stating that these are just simple bruises for him. Standing on the other side, Cao remarks that the death of Lin Lei has provoked Lin Feng, and he has completely disregarded the consequences by forcefully activating the frenzy pill. Meanwhile, Lin Feng charges his body with overwhelming energy, remarking that Fang cannot block his attacks and instead he will have to suffer. With that, he activates a technique called Dual Blade Dragon Tornado and sends it in the direction of Fang, who stands under it holding his spear and attempts to block it. Despite trying his best to block the attack, Fang continuously gets pushed backwards until he reaches the edge of the arena. Finally piercing his spear to the ground, he maintains his balance and stands still, causing Lin Feng to become astonished at his perseverance. Remarking that he was being very easy with him, Lin Feng states that he should not expect to get sent off the stage, as he will be sent straight to hell. As a result of such a powerful attack, Fang begins to cough up blood, leading Lin Feng to laugh, asking if that was all he could endure. Fang realizes that he did not manage to completely block it, which has injured his internal organs and drained out all his strength. Therefore, he starts to regulate his breathing, thinking that he can surely do it, while Lin Feng asks if he is just a living practice dummy for him. Telling him to say his final prayers, Lin Feng causes his dual blade dragon tornadoes to transform into gigantic wolves that rush towards Fang. Watching that, Huai Ren becomes shocked, telling him to dodge it, stating that he cannot take such an attack on his head. Hearing these voices, Fang, who is standing still in his place, goes back into a memory where his fellow disciples were badly beaten up by the inner disciples for entering the scripture library. Going to them, Fang asked why they could not enter the library, in response to which the disciple stated that it is not a place where people like him could go since they are useless. After that incident, he went to Zhao, their instructor, and requested that he teach him advanced-level martial techniques. In response, the instructor stated that he was misunderstanding something and remarked that the disciples of the outer sect have very limited potential. He stated that if the outer disciples were to learn an advanced technique, they would turn back and bite themselves instead, causing Fang to become frustrated. Becoming an outer disciple at the age of 6, Fang always faced such discriminatory attitudes and was considered a lowly individual. However, this was not the case until he met Li Qi, a person who denied the system of inner disciples and outer disciples. Li Qi stated that he would completely abolish this system and turn around the principles of the cleansing incense ancient sect. This hope is something that brings him back to his determination to succeed, while the wolves made of Lin Feng's power strike him, causing a massive explosion. This causes those on Kao's side to become overjoyed, while those on Fang's side become anxious for his well-being. Meanwhile, Lin Feng waits for the clouds of smoke to disperse to see the outcome of the attack. However, as soon as the clouds of smoke dissipate, he becomes shocked to see Fang standing still, holding his spear. Realizing that he is fine, his team members become relieved, while Fang declares that this match is his to win. Walking forward, Fang states that all that time he had been thinking that it was the name of the outer sect disciples that prevented them from holding their heads up, but he was mistaken. He then remarks that he is not strong enough and states that he cannot protect the dignity of the outer sect, causing Lin Feng to become confused. Just then, Fang leaps up in the air, declaring that he is the most senior member of the outer sect. Launching countless simultaneous attacks, he states that he wants to stand upright on the top of the world, causing Lin Feng to experience immense agony. Confused by whatever is going on, Huai Ren wonders what Fang did to overpower Lin Feng. In response, Shuanger states that his realm is dramatically rising, and Li Qi agrees, remarking that he is burning up his own lifespan, leaving Huai Ren shocked. Watching Fang harm himself, Shuanger turns to Li Qi, asking if he taught such a thing to his disciple, but he disagrees, stating that he has never taught him anything like that. Meanwhile, Liu Jianing, who is watching the battle, quietly wonders why Fang is always the one to put his life on the line. In response, Li Qi states that this is because there is always something more important than life, and Huai Ren agrees, remarking that it is dignity and ambition. Turning to Li Qiyi, Huai Ren remarks that Fang is not the same as him, yet Li Qiyi disagrees, stating that he has the ambition to make the outer sect rise even at the expense of his life. Meanwhile, Fang keeps directing an overwhelming amount of energy in Lin Feng's direction, causing him to get overpowered. While continuously bombarding his energy, Fang asks if he is unable to endure it. Watching the fight from outside the arena, Jian remarks that it is a very ugly one in which they are continuously getting beaten by the lowly outer sect members. Determined to give a reply to them when it is his turn, Jian tells Lin Feng to not lose the bet without giving him a chance to fight, making him frustrated. He remarks that his group members are useless sidelines, causing Lin Feng to become enraged, thinking that he was forced to fight this battle. Meanwhile, Fang catches up to him, asking if he is going to hide under the stage in order to save himself. Remarking it to be boring, Fang states that they should fight face-to-face, causing Lin Feng to burst in anger and unleash his powers, remarking that there is a limit to looking down on people. Looking at such an overwhelming surge of energy, the disciples of Kao are shocked. However, in response to it, Fang unleashes an equally powerful surge of energy by putting his life on the line, making his fellows anxious. Leaving their places, both of them rush towards each other and collide, leading to a massive overflow of energy from the arena. As a massive explosion erupts from the arena, the disciples from both sides, as well as the elders, become confused, wondering what the outcome of such a powerful attack might be. As the clouds of smoke begin to clear, the judge tells them to stop, stating that they cannot continue such a powerful battle. However, just then, the scene in front of them becomes clear, revealing both Fang and Lin Feng standing in front of each other, piercing their swords into each other's bodies. Watching this, the judge becomes shocked, realizing that both of them have lost consciousness, and declares the match to be a draw, calling out to the medical team to attend to them. Shortly after, a medical team arrives to take them away. Watching Fang in such a state, Huai Ren becomes anxious, telling him not to leave them. However, Li Qiyi instructs him not to think so negatively. Watching them from a distance, the princess summons a bottle in her hand, stating that it contains medicine for him to drink. She then hands the medicine to the medical squad and instructs them to administer it to Fang after addressing their physical needs, assuring them that it will guarantee his life. In response, Li Qiyi expresses his gratitude, vowing not to forget this favor, but the princess clarifies that it wasn't for him. As she gazes at Fang, she remarks that finding such a warrior, even within her own sect, is a rare occurrence, and he has earned her respect through his unwavering willpower and determination. Meanwhile, on the other side, Lin Feng is brought to Sao, and the medical staff reassures Kao, telling him not to worry as they can save the boy. Overwhelmed with anger, Kao orders them to take the boy away if he's alive and bury him if he's dead, instead of reporting the situation. Taken aback by Kao's harsh words, the medical staff complies and takes Lin Feng away, while Kao expresses his disdain for individuals he deems useless. After they depart, Jian advises Kao to calm down, noting that the situation could still be worse. Jian plans that after his own victory in the next round, they will determine their next course of action. Observing their departure, Huai Ren senses a strong and menacing intent emanating from Jian, causing him to tremble in fear. While he quivers, Li Qiyi calls out to him, inquiring if he's scared and suggesting that if he is, he should surrender. Startled by this, Huai Ren clarifies that he is not scared. In response, Li Qiyi states that he is not joking either, and Huai Ren can indeed go ahead and surrender because Liu Jianing and Fang have already given their all. Li Qiyi remarks that it would be fine even if Huai Ren lost, causing him to feel embarrassed. Clenching his fist, Huai Ren decides never to do that, thinking that he cannot waste all the efforts his team members have made. Considering that, he turns to Li Qiyi, refusing to back down, causing him to smile, appreciating his spirit. Sometime later, the third match begins with the instruction of both contestants to get on the stage. Stating that the battle from both sides is getting out of hand, the judge instructs both Huai Ren and Jian to control themselves during the fight. Telling the judge not to worry, Jian states that the gap between him and Huai Ren is like heaven and earth, due to which he will have his own measures. While Huai Ren gazes at him, confused at such a remark, Jian starts laughing, making him confused. Apologizing for laughing, Jian states that when he made the remark that he would not kill him, the expression on Huai Ren's face looked more like a sigh of relief. Enraged by such a remark, Huai Ren forbids him from looking down upon him and activates his curving water sword technique, charging at him. As he comes near, Jian, who is standing motionless, smirks and effortlessly dodges the attack, causing him to hit the ground. Just then, a sword comes flying in his direction, controlled by Jian, who remarks that he is still not worthy enough to fight personally with him. He goes on to state that Huai Ren is not even worthy enough for him to take even a single step. Realizing that Jian is using the honorable sword technique, Huai Ren charges his sword with his aqua powers, stating that he will make him move if Jian has decided not to move. Stating that he is going to regret saying that, Huai Ren alters his curving water sword technique to increase its power by twofold and launches a formidable attack. Watching that, the disciples of Kao become shocked, wondering how he managed to increase the power of this technique to such an extent. However, Jian, who does not seem to be impacted by this attack, remarks it to be child's play and moves his finger slightly, causing his sword to swing around and evade all the attacks. Watching that, Huai Ren becomes shocked, considering that he has sliced through his formidable water technique effortlessly, while all the water floating up in the air crashes into his feet. Stating that Huai Ren is boring him, Jian snaps his finger, causing his sword to go forward and starts launching countless attacks on Huai Ren, which he barely manages to dodge. After dodging the attacks for some time, Huai Ren becomes exhausted and crashes to the ground, causing Jian to remark that it was extremely boring. He states that it would have been a little more interesting if he were to go against one of the previous two contestants. Meanwhile, Huai Ren becomes anxious, thinking that the gap between them is very huge and it seems like an abyss, which is preventing him from overcoming this gap. However, considering that he cannot give up so early, Huai Ren struggles to pull himself together. Watching the fight, Shuanger remarks that Huai Ren is completely overpowered by Jianan, but Li Qi, who seems to be noticing something else, tells her that Jane is continuously looking at her. Finding it to be disgusting, she remarks that she hates those who give a feeling of false modesty, yet he is truly incredible when it comes to strength. Watching him observe her, she states that if he were in the 9 Saint Demon Gate, he would have been one of the top disciples there as well. Huai Ren remembers the time when he was preparing for the battle and displayed expertise in using the curving water sword technique. Watching that, Li Qi clapped for him, remarking that he seemed to have completely comprehended the technique. However, he explained that the curving water sword technique was just a small piece of the polar water sword technique. Agreeing, Huai Ren stated that it was one of the emperor-graded techniques that existed since the founding of their sect, but it has been lost for many years now, after generations. He stated that it was only because it was just a little fragment of the technique that he was allowed to learn it. In response, Li Qi remarked that it was a pity, stating that he was only one step away from learning the polar water sword technique. Li Qi explained that the polar water sword technique could transform merit into extremely cold water, and curving water sword technique is a technique that lacks chill. The most scary thing about the polar water sword technique was that it does not condense despite getting temperatures far lower than ice, allowing it to enter the body of the opponent. He went on to explain that there were countless other things that this technique could do, and Huai Ren agreed, stating that he knew every detail about it but repeated that it had been long lost. In response, Li Qi smiled and handed him a few notes, telling him to take a look at those. Skimming through those handwritten notes, Huai Ren became surprised, realizing that it was the lost polar water sword technique. However, considering that the papers were all new, he turned to Li Qi, asking if he had written them, and he agreed, causing him to ask how he knew about them. In response, Li Qi stated that he had a dream in which he saw all the principles of the chilling water sword technique. Hearing this, Huai Ren had no choice but to believe it. While he is thinking about that, Jian calls out to him, asking if he really expects the light of a firefly to be outside the radiance of a moon and telling him to surrender. In response, Huai Ren states that he might not be a match for him, but he will also not surrender, remarking that Jian has already lost his best chance for it, confusing him. Huai Ren explains that he lost his chance by giving him time to prepare the technique, which he was not very familiar with, and holding his sword tightly. Telling him to stop bluffing, Jian sends his sword towards him at a great speed, which breaks through all of his shields and reaches right in front of him. However, as soon as it is about to strike Huai Ren, it gets ensnared in Huai Ren's water technique and falls to the ground, losing all its energy. Watching that, Jian becomes shocked and falls to his knees, causing all his fellow disciples to become bewildered. Recognizing the sensation to be cold qi, Jian realizes that the yin energy has entered his body, because of which the sword stopped as well. Thinking that he has to force it out of his body, Jian struggles to do it but becomes shocked to realize that he is just unable to do it. Holding his knees, Jian becomes utterly bewildered, thinking that he did not sense any surge of power from his opponent, yet the nature of his qi changed completely. Considering that he calls out to Huai Ren, asking what sort of evil technique he used, in response to which Huai Ren reveals that it was the polar water sword technique. Stating that they have finally come on an equal playing ground, Huai Ren declares that he has finally got a chance to swing his sword at him. Watching a powerful slash coming in his direction, Jian becomes shocked and quickly jumps backwards to save himself. Looking at him drifting away, Huai Ren starts to laugh, causing Jian to ask about the reason behind his laughter. In response, Huai Ren states that he just recalled what Jian had said, remembering that he decided not to even move a single step as he would not be able to hurt him. In contrast to that, he not only moved but also got hurt by his powers, causing Jian to notice a small cut on his face. Realizing that Huai Ren actually managed to hurt him, Jian becomes enraged and clenches his fist, stating that he has changed his mind. Charging his body with an overwhelming energy, he declares that the time to play is over and states that he is going to take Huai Ren's life in return for a single scratch that he gave. Feeling intense pressure, Huai Ren thinks that he already knew that Jian was not using his full strength before. However, he knows that there is nothing to worry about since he has already suppressed Jian's technique, and Jian will be unable to remove the energy from his body. Therefore, despite his cultivation level being lower than that of Jian, he knows that there is a big chance for him to win and gets ready for the attack once again. Watching the fight from outside the arena, Shuanger remarks that Huai Ren's aura seems to have completely changed, and Li Qiyi agrees, stating that he has finally found his confidence. Meanwhile, Huai Ren activates his polar water sword technique once again, forming endless clones of himself. Declaring it to be his strongest attack, Huai Ren states that he will see if his opponent can take it. Enraged, Jian remarks that he is still a useless individual, stating that he also wants to see all the power his opponent has. With that, all the water clones start to surround him, following the actions of Huai Ren and slashing Jian from all directions. However, before the swords can strike him, Jian disappears from between them, leaving Huai Ren bewildered. Suddenly appearing behind him, Jian pierces his sword through Huai Ren's arm, leaving him shocked. As a result of Huai Ren getting hit, all his water clones start to disperse. Watching that, Huai Ren stands in shock while Jian asks if he really expected to beat a person who has years of cultivation with just 1 month of training. Looking at the place where his sword was lying, Huai Ren realizes that it is not there anymore and concludes that Jian dodged his attack with his sword and stabbed him within an instant. This makes him realize how fast Jian is. Meanwhile, Jian pulls out the sword from his body, causing him to experience intense pain, and repeats his words, asking if he really expects the light of a firefly to outshine the radiance of a moon. With that, he brings his sword, Huai Ren, at great speed, intent on killing him. Bringing his sword near Huai Ren, Jian attempts to strike him with all his might, but instead of hitting him, the sword hits the ground, leaving him shocked. Looking up, he finds Shuanger intervening in the battle by pushing Huai Ren away, who himself screams in shock. Telling him to stop screaming, she states that he should be careful to avoid biting his own tongue. Recognizing Shuanger as the princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, the disciples of Kao become shocked, wondering why she enters the arena. A few moments later, she jumps on the ground while Huai Ren crashes on the opposite side, screaming with pain, causing her to say that he should be thankful to her for saving his life. Watching that, Jian becomes surprised and calls out to the referee, who declares it to be a violation of the rule. Telling him to stop the announcement, Li Qiyi states that he is the one who asked the princess to intervene and save his group member. Without any hesitation, Li Qiyi accepts their defeat, causing both Jian and Huai Ren to become shocked. Gripping his sword in a reverse manner, Jian greets the princess and remarks that she is truly great, asking why she serves a person like Li Qiye. In response, Shuanger simply states that this is none of his business. Jian, in response, mentions that he heard about Li Qiyi treating her as a maid, and he didn't feel good about it. This causes her to roll her eyes and turn around. Turning to Li Qiyi, Jian asks if he would like to have a match against him for the position of prime disciple. Asking if he really wants to fight, Li Qiyi jumps into the arena happily, giving him the honor of fighting against him, causing Jian to remark that he is extremely straightforward. However, as both of them come face to face, about to begin the battle, Jian notices Li Qiyi's empty hands and asks if he is not going to use the burnt stick. In response, Li Qiyi asks why he would need a weapon to fight against a person like him. Frustrated by this, Jian replies that he wants to fight against him fair and square, and Li Qiyi not using a weapon will cause others to think that he did not win through martial means. Considering it to be useless talk, Li Qiyi turns around and calls out to one of his disciples, murmuring something in his ears and strictly telling him to do that. Taking the order, the person quickly runs out of the arena, while Li Qiyi turns to Jian, stating that he will have to wait if he wants him to fight with his weapon. Meanwhile, the medical squad takes Huai Ren away, while Shuanger returns to Liu Jianing. Meanwhile, Cao, who is standing at a distance, starts to get a telepathic message stating that karma is a bitter truth. The person speaking to him states that the grand plan he has been scheming for decades has failed, for which he wants to present his condolences. Frustrated by his words, Cao asks what he was addressing him as, Dong Shenlong, the prince of the heavenly jewel kingdom, who declares that Li Qiyi has drawn with him. In response, Cao states that there is still one more match left, causing Dong Shen to laugh, stating that even if Li Qiyi loses this match, he has actually shown what he is capable of. Moreover, he also has support from the 9 Saint Demon Gate, and if Cao still wishes to work on his plan alone, then he might end up doing all this for nothing in the future. Frustrated by such a remark, Cao tells him not to worry, stating that the prime disciple position of Li Qiyi is not going to last for long. Sometime later, the disciple Li Qiyi sent to bring the weapon returns, stating that he has brought what Li Qiyi asked for. He reveals the weapon to be the 2 machetes that were used to carve the statue of their founder, stored within the weaponry. Taking them in his hand, Li Qiyi remarks that these are exactly what he wants, while the person who brought them states that he does not think they will even be able to chop vegetables. Surprised by his choice of weapon, Jian asks if he is really going to fight against him with these rusted metal pieces. In response, Li Qiyi simply states that he got the weapon according to Jian's condition, asking if he wants to fight or not. Agreeing to fight, Jian tells him not to regret it after losing. Charging his sword with overwhelming energy, Jian declares that Li Qiyi is courting death with such an act, while Li Qiyi watches him with no trace of fear or anxiety on his face. Believing that he will kill Li Qiyi with a single hit, Jian unleashes powerful waves of energy from his sword, sending them in Li Qiyi's direction. This causes the onlookers from both sides to become astonished and anxious about the outcome. Watching the countless swords made of Jian's powers floating in the air, all the onlookers are astonished, declaring it to be something expected of Jian, who is the future of their sect. Considering Jian's high level of cultivation, Cao smiles confidently, thinking that victory is surely in their hands. Meanwhile, Jian charges at Li Qiyi with all his powers, thinking that luck is not going to save him from his absolute power this time. Stating that the prime disciple position will be his after killing Li Qiyi, Jian declares that he is going to hang Li Qiyi's head in the plaza for everyone to see. Moreover, he also intends to cripple the cultivation of all the outer disciples and turn them into slaves instead. Along with that, he intends to marry the princess of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Thinking all that, he charges at Li Qiyi, who slowly starts to react, causing him to remark that it is already too late. Meanwhile, Li Qiyi charges his machetes and rushes forward at great speed, shattering all of Jian's swords in an instant, which leaves him shocked. Without him realizing it, Li Qiyi launches countless strikes on his body and then moves away, remarking that he went easy on him and only used the back of his weapons in the attack. Wondering if this is for real, all the audience from both sides gaze in astonishment as Jian crashes to the ground, leaving them shocked. Looking at him lying motionless on the ground, all of them wonder if he got killed in an instant. Meanwhile, Cao clenches his fist in frustration, while Hong keeps on mocking him, stating that the tables have finally turned against him. With a cruel smile on his face, he declares that Li Qiyi has done him a huge favor this time. A few moments later, the medical squad comes running into the arena and finds Jian to be alive, asking where he got hurt the most. Watching him tremble as if in a lot of pain, the medical team becomes astonished considering that there is not even a single mark of injury on his body, yet he got into this hysteria. Wondering what might have happened, they look at Li Qiyi standing at a distance, wondering if it was this terrifying to fight against him, while Li Qiyi responds to their gaze with a smile. Considering his innocent expressions, one of the members of the team states that this cannot be the case. Sometime later, the Supreme Elder enters the arena, stating that 1 month ago, Li Qiyi and Teo made a bet regarding abolishing the disciple system and making a decision about Li Qiyi's life. He states that after the 4 matches fought between the parties, it has been decided that Li Qiyi and his team have won, causing the members of the opposite team to become shocked. Frustrated at his loss, Cao argues that Li Qiyi winning against him proves that he has fallen into the demonic path, asking why they are not understanding that. Meanwhile, the Supreme Elder announces that the inner and outer disciple system has been abolished from that day on. He orders them to remove any discrimination between inner and outer disciples and allow everyone to access the library of scriptures, giving the same orders for weaponry and treasure. He states that all of the disciples are going to cultivate and improve together from this day on, causing all the outer disciples to become overjoyed. After that, the Supreme Elder instructs everyone to disperse and stops Li Qiyi, stating that he wants him to explain something to him. Back in his chamber, the Supreme Elder expresses his astonishment at Li Qiyi for choosing the rusted machetes as a weapon to fight against Jian and win the battle. In response, Li Qiyi states that he only got lucky, and the Elder agrees, stating that this pair of rusted weapons does not seem like a treasure at all. However, he states that this can only be the case if a divine mechanism is not present inside the weapons, and Li Qiyi knows the methods to activate it. Hearing that, Li Qiyi remembers that these weapons were a favorite toy for Ming Ren, which, despite looking ordinary from the outside, contained Ming Ren's divination. Despite being astonished at the ability of the Supreme Elder to judge it, Li Qiyi pretends to not know about it, stating that he only wanted to teach him a lesson on behalf of his ancestors. Hearing that, the Elder asks if it is really the case, and Li Qiyi agrees, clarifying that there is no other reason behind it. In response, the Supreme Elder states that he is unable to understand Li Qiyi's intentions, but they must be better than those of the actual Elder, causing Li Qiyi to become surprised, asking if he is not the Elder. The Supreme Elder reveals that something happened a decade ago, but not wanting to discuss that, he changes the topic, stating that he wants to discuss the threats they might face in future. The Supreme Elder explains that Li Qiyi has been acting wild for some time and has attracted the attention of the Heavenly Jewel Kingdom. He reveals that the Heavenly Jewel Kingdom is the kingdom of teaching, which ruled the Heavenly Divine Sect and have been trying to expand their territory for 1,000 years. Revealing that they have been trying to take over the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, the Supreme Elder asks if Li Qiyi was really unaware of that. In response, Li Qiyi states that he is not the type of person to care about current affairs, which is why it did not catch his ears. The Supreme Elder explains that they have already started to make their move, and the guest from the Jewel Kingdom, named Dong Shenlong, will definitely come after him. Stating that, he asks if Li Qiyi will be able to handle whatever is coming. We really hope that you enjoyed this manhwa. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.